The year is 1590. Outside the heavy oak doors of this sanctuary, the city of Prague is a labyrinth of cobblestones, flickering torches, and the restless energy of the late Renaissance. The Holy Roman Empire stirs with the whispers of alchemists and the ambitions of emperors, but here, behind walls of thick stone and curtains of heavy crimson velvet, time does not march. It flows like poured wax. Can you smell it? It is the scent of 1,000 years of human thought. It is the earthy, musk-heavy aroma of cured calfskin, the sharp tang of fresh wood glue, and the sweet, soothing perfume of molten beeswax. You are standing in the heart of a scholar's private library, a cathedral of parchment where the only sound is the rhythmic thud of a heartbeat and the soft, rasping breath of a craftsman at work. Before you lies a masterpiece in progress, a book not yet born, its spine naked, and its pages waiting for the embrace of leather and gold in this room. Surrounded by towering shelves that disappear into the shadows of the vaulted ceiling, you are safe. The evening chill of Bohemia cannot reach you here. The chaos of the world is a distant memory. Tonight we are not mere observers. We are the companions of the master binder. We are here to witness the slow, deliberate alchemy of turning raw materials into a vessel for eternal wisdom. The room is bathed in the amber glow of a dozen beeswax candles. Their flames dance slightly, casting long, elegant shadows across the rolling oak ladders that lean against the shelves. These shelves are a maze, a vertical forest of knowledge stretching upward toward the rafters. Every inch is packed with volumes, vellum-bound folios, stained wooden boards, and delicate manuscripts that have travelled from the scriptoriums of Italy and the printing presses of Mainz. There is a profound stillness here. It is the kind of silence that feels heavy and warm, like a woolen blanket. You can hear the faint creak of the floorboards as the binder shifts his weight, the sound of a dry quill scratching against a scrap of paper, and the occasional pop of a log in the hearth at the far end of the hall. The curtains, thick, dusty, and regal, block out the prying eyes of the night and the biting wind that howls off the Vltava river. Within this circle of candlelight, the world is reduced to a single workbench. This is the altar of the bookbinder. On its scarred surface lie the tools of a quiet revolution. Bone folders polished to a mirror shine, heavy brass stamps with intricate floral patterns, and tiny fluttering flakes of 22-carat gold leaf that seem to glow with a light of their own. The binder is a man of immense patience. His hands are calloused, stained by years of dyes and tannins, yet his touch is as light as a falling leaf. He does not hurry. In 1590, speed is the enemy of beauty. He picks up a piece of dark brown leather, rich, supple, and smelling of the tannins of oak bark. He runs his thumb over the grain, feeling for imperfections. This leather will be the skin of a scholar's soul, protecting words that might live for another 5 centuries. As he prepares the glue, the steam rises in soft curls, adding a moist, organic note to the air. You watch as he applies the adhesive with a wide brush, his movements steady and hypnotic. There is a deep physical comfort in watching someone perform a task they have mastered over a lifetime. It grounds you. It reminds you that despite the shifting tides of history, there is a constant in the human touch, in the tactile reality of craft. The library watches. Thousands of spines, embossed with titles in Latin, Greek, and Hebrew, seem to lean forward in anticipation. They are the silent jury of his work, and as the binder prepares to lay the first strip of gold, the very air in the room seems to hold its breath. You feel the weight of the history around you, the thousands of hours of study represented by these walls, and you realize that you're in a place where the pursuit of knowledge is the highest calling. The candlelight flickers against the gold, and for a moment, the entire room seems to shimmer with the promise of secrets yet to be revealed. Here in the heart of Prague, the night is long, but the work is eternal. We begin our journey into the grain of the leather and the shine of the leaf, losing ourselves in the rhythmic, soothing process of creation. The master binder reaches for his heavy iron shears, the metal cool against his steady palms. Each snip against the thick hide of the dark brown leather creates a crisp, rhythmic sound that echoes softly against the spines of the surrounding books. He is carving the foundation of a legacy. You watch the way the candlelight catches the texture of the grain. It is rugged yet refined, a material born of the earth and destined for the intellect. The leather is draped over the wooden workbench, and he begins the process of skiving, thinning the edges with a razor-sharp knife so they will fold perfectly over the cardboard covers. The sound is a gentle, repetitive hiss, like a secret whispered between the blade and the skin. As the shavings fall like dark snow to the floor, the binder's focus is unbreakable. He is not just working on a book, he is constructing a fortress for ideas. The library around him seems to breathe with him. The smell of the humid glue pot thickens, a grounding, earthy scent that speaks of stability and tradition. This glue, made from secret recipes handed down through generations of artisans, is the invisible bond that holds history together. You find yourself drifting deeper into the atmosphere of this 1,590 sanctuary. Look up at the shelves. The oak is dark, polished by the hands of scholars who have searched these heights for centuries. The rolling ladders stand like silent sentinels, their brass wheels gleaming dimly in the low light. Occasionally, a soft thump comes from the corner as a heavy velvet curtain settles against the stone floor, further sealing the room from the outside world. There is no ticking clock here, only the internal rhythm of the craft. The binder now takes a bone folder, a smooth, pale tool carved from ox bone, and begins to press the leather onto the boards. He works the material into the grooves of the spine, creating the raised bands that give old volumes their distinctive authoritative silhouette. His movements are a dance of pressure and precision. You can see the muscles in his forearms tighten and release, a testament to the physical labor behind the intellectual treasure. The leather begins to take the shape of the book, hugging the paper tightly, transforming from a raw hide into a finished vessel. The silence is majestic. It is a silence filled with the weight of the words contained in the thousands of folios surrounding you. Somewhere in the distance, perhaps in the old town square, a bell tolls the hour, but here the sound is muffled and distant, as if the library exists in a fold of time itself. The binder pauses for a moment to wipe his brow, his eyes reflecting the flickering orange glow of the hearth. He looks at the book, seeing not just the leather and the glue, but the future readers who will run their fingers over this very surface in 100 years. He picks up a small sponge, dampening the leather slightly to prepare it for the tooling. The hiss of the water meeting the dry hide is sharp and refreshing. The air in the room is cool, but the workbench is a pocket of warmth and light. You feel a sense of profound peace watching this. There is no urgency, no frantic rush of the modern age. There is only the leather, the wood, and the gold that waits in its small wooden box. As the binder prepares the finishing tools, he heats a brass stamp over a small spirit lamp. The smell of scorched metal mixes with the beeswax, a sharp metallic tang that cuts through the sweetness. He tests the temperature of the tool against a scrap of leather, listening for the specific sizzle that tells him the heat is perfect. Too hot, and the leather burns; too cold, and the impression will fade. It is a delicate balance, a mastery of elements. You watch the smoke curl upward, disappearing into the dark rafters. The anticipation builds. The book is now covered, its dark brown surface gleaming under the moisture, ready to receive the mark of the artisan. The binder takes a deep breath, steadying his hands, and looks toward the gold leaf. The gold is so thin it trembles with every breath he takes. It is the light of the sun captured in a solid form, waiting to be pressed into the dark, silent leather. The contrast is beautiful, the darkness of the hide and the brilliance of the metal. This is the moment where the mundane becomes the divine, where a simple object of utility begins its transformation into a work of art that will outlast the man who made it. Every movement is a prayer to the craft, and you're here, a silent witness to the birth of a masterpiece in the heart of Prague. The binder reaches for a small wooden box lined with blue silk. Inside, the gold leaf rests, beaten so thin that it defies the laws of weight, shimmering like a captured thought. He uses a wide brush made of badger hair, rubbing it against his own hair to create a faint charge of static electricity. This invisible force is all that is needed to lift the delicate leaf. You watch, transfixed, as the gold rises and floats through the air, settling onto the dark brown leather with the grace of a falling snowflake. The contrast is striking. The deep chocolate tones of the grain meet the blinding brilliance of the sun. The binder uses a puff of air no stronger than a whisper to flatten the leaf. He then takes the heated brass stamp, the one that has been warming by the spirit lamp, and aligns it with a precision that only decades of practice can provide. With a steady, firm pressure, he presses the stamp into the gold. The smell of singed leather, rich, toasted and ancient, fills the immediate space. When he lifts the tool and brushes away the excess gold with a soft cloth, a perfect gleaming fleur-de-lis remains, etched forever into the spine. As you observe this, the library around you seems to hum with approval. The thousands of volumes on the shelves are more than just paper and ink. They are a collective consciousness, a silent audience to the binder's devotion. The oak ladders, dark and sturdy, look like the ribs of some great beast that swallowed all the world's knowledge. You imagine the scholars who have climbed those rungs, their fingers tracing the very same textures you see tonight. The atmosphere is one of profound intellectual peace. There is a safety here that cannot be found in the streets of Prague, where political tensions and the whispers of war often disturb the peace. In this room, the only conflict is the resistance of the leather to the needle, or the stubbornness of the glue on a humid evening. Everything else is secondary to the preservation of the word. The binder moves to the corners of the book now, applying intricate borders that frame the cover like a window into another world. Each press of the tool is a rhythmic clink tap, a metallic heartbeat that anchors the room. The heavy velvet curtains ripple slightly as a draft tries to find its way through the stone window frames, but the fabric is too thick, too resolute. It holds the warmth of the hearth inside, keeping the binder's fingers limber. He pauses to take a sip of dark, spiced ale from a pewter tankard, the metal sweating in the warmth of the room. He offers a small nod to the shadows, perhaps acknowledging the ghosts of the binders who came before him. This craft is a lineage, a thread of gold that connects the past to the future. You feel the physical comfort of the scene, the softness of the velvet, the sturdiness of the oak, and the grounding scent of the beeswax candles. It is a sensory symphony designed to soothe the soul and sharpen the mind. The light reflects off the newly gilded spine, casting a golden glow onto the binder's weathered face, illuminating the lines of a life dedicated to the service of books. The work is far from over, but the progress is visible. The book now has a face, a personality. It is no longer just a stack of sewn parchment. It is a scholar's library volume. The binder begins to work on the inner edges, the doublures, where the leather meets the marbled end papers. These papers, with their swirling patterns of indigo, crimson and gold, look like the surface of a mystical sea. He smooths them down with the bone folder, ensuring there are no air bubbles, no imperfections. His movements are so fluid they seem almost automated, yet each one is guided by a sharp, discerning eye. You find yourself leaning closer, drawn in by the sheer detail of the work. Every stitch in the headband, every fleck of gold, is a testament to the idea that some things are worth doing slowly. In a world that often demands more and faster, this room is a sanctuary of better and forever. If you find yourself enchanted by the stories of the past and the quiet beauty of ancient crafts, please consider subscribing to our journey. Your support helps us keep the hearth burning and the stories flowing. Like this video and comment below with your favorite historical era to help others find their way to our peaceful library. The binder now prepares to set the book into the heavy wooden press for the night. This press, made of dark fruit wood with a massive iron screw, will exert a gentle, constant force, ensuring that the leather and the boards become one inseparable entity. As he turns the handle, the wood groans, a deep, satisfying sound of structural integrity. The book is tucked away, cradled in the jaws of the press where it will rest until the morning light. The binder wipes his tools one last time, coating them in a thin layer of oil to protect them from the damp Prague air. The candles have burned low, their flames now small blue islands in a sea of liquid wax. The library grows darker, the shadows stretching out from the corners to reclaim the room. But the golden glint from the press remains visible, a tiny star in the gloom promising that the work of the day will endure. You feel a deep sense of completion, a vicarious satisfaction in a job well done. as the master binder prepares to leave his sanctuary for the night. The binder moves away from the press, his boots creating a soft, rhythmic thud against the wide planks of the floor. The library seems to expand in the deepening twilight, the upper reaches of the shelves vanishing into a velvet blackness where the candle flame cannot reach. He approaches the large hearth at the end of the hall, where the embers glow like a subterranean city of orange and gold. With a heavy iron poker, he stirs the coals, sending a sudden flurry of sparks up the chimney. The warmth radiates against his skin, a welcome contrast to the encroaching chill of the bohemian night. He pulls a high-backed chair, upholstered in worn leather the color of dried plums, closer to the fire. This is his moment of reflection, a quiet communion with the silent inhabitants of the room. Every book on these shelves represents a mind, a life's work, a desperate attempt to capture the fleeting nature of thought and pin it to the page. As he sits, he looks up at the oak ladders. They seem to vibrate with the history they support. He remembers a time years ago when he climbed to the very top to retrieve a manuscript from the East, a fragile scroll of silk and paper that smelled of sandalwood and distant oceans. That is the magic of this place. It is a crossroads of the world. In 1590, Prague is the center of the occult and the scientific, a city where the Emperor Rudolf II gathers astronomers and alchemists alike. The library reflects this thirst for the unknown. On the lower shelves, massive atlases contain maps of the New World, their margins filled with sea monsters and the promise of gold. Higher up, theological treatises in heavy vellum stand shoulder to shoulder with forbidden texts on the alignment of the stars. The binder knows the weight of them all. He has repaired their spines, replaced their clasps, and cleaned the dust of decades from their edges. The scent of the room changes as the fire dies down. The sharp smell of the glue pot recedes, replaced by the dry, sweet aroma of old paper and the faint, lingering spice of the ale. It is a grounding atmosphere, one that pulls the scattered thoughts of the day into a singular point of focus. You can almost feel the presence of the scholars who once paced these floors, their heavy robes sweeping across the wood as they debated the nature of the soul or the movement of the planets. The silence is not empty. It is a full silence, packed with the echoes of ancient Latin and the scratching of quills. The binder closes his eyes for a moment, letting the warmth of the fire seep into his tired joints. His hands, though idle now, still carry the phantom sensation of the leather's grain. To be a binder is to be a guardian. He does not write the words, but he ensures they have a home. He provides the armor that protects the fragile ideas from the ravages of time, moisture, and neglect. Outside, the wind picks up, rattling the heavy leaded glass windows hidden behind the curtains. A low moan wanders through the masonry, a reminder of the wild, untamed world that lies beyond these stone walls. But here, the order is absolute. The maze of shelves provides a structure to the chaos of human experience. Everything has its place. The binder thinks of the book currently resting in the press. By morning, the glue will have set, and the leather will have shrunk slightly, gripping the boards in a permanent embrace. He thinks of the gold leaf he applied, how it caught the light, and how it will continue to catch the light for centuries, even after his own name is forgotten. There is a profound humility in this realization. He is a link in a chain, a temporary steward of a permanent legacy. The physical comfort of the room, the velvet, the oak, the fire, is a reward for this service, a small sanctuary of peace in a century of upheaval. He reaches for a small leather-bound journal on the side table, his own personal record of the materials used and the techniques applied. Even the artisan needs to document his journey. The ink is dark and thick, flowing from the nib of his quill with a soft scratching sound that mimics the wind outside. He records the source of the calfskin, the weight of the gold, and the temperature of the room. These details might seem trivial, but to him, they are the variables of perfection. As he writes, the flickering light of the single remaining candle casts a gargantuan shadow of his hand against the shelves, as if the library itself is recording his movements. You feel a sense of deep, heavy relaxation watching him. The world of 1590 is dangerous and unpredictable, but within this circle of firelight and old paper, Everything is exactly as it should be. The transition from the physical labor of the day to the intellectual stillness of the night is complete. The binder's quill finally rests, the wet ink glistening like a dark river on the page before it settles into the fibers of the paper. He leans back, his eyes wandering to the ceiling where the massive oak beams cross, disappearing into the soot-stained darkness. These beams have held up the weight of this knowledge for generations, unyielding and silent. The library is more than a room. It is a living organism, its breath the slow exchange of air through the cracks in the stone, its pulse the steady drip of wax from the dwindling candles. The master binder feels a deep ancestral connection to the space. He remembers his own master, a man with hands like gnarled roots, who taught him that a book is not a thing of wood and skin, but a living spirit that requires a body. A poorly bound book, the old man used to say, is a soul left out in the rain. This thought brings a small, tired smile to the binder's face as he looks toward the press. The silence of the room begins to layer itself, becoming thicker as the night deepens. There is a specific kind of quiet found only in places where books are kept, a respectful, heavy silence that demands a soft footfall. Even the mice that scurry behind the baseboards seem to move with a certain reverence, their tiny claws clicking softly on the hidden stone. The binder stands, his joints popping with a sound like dry twigs snapping, and begins his final rounds. He moves to the rolling ladder, his hand sliding over the polished wood. It feels oily and smooth, saturated with the touch of 1,000 hands. He pushes it gently, and it glides along its iron track with a low melodic hum, a sound that resonates in the very floorboards. He is checking the alignment of the shelves, ensuring that no volume has leaned too far, putting unnecessary strain on its hinges. He stops before a shelf of ancient vellum volumes, their covers pale and ghostly in the firelight. These are the survivors of fire, flood, and war. He touches one, feeling the cold, stiff surface of the parchment. Vellum has a memory. It wants to return to the shape of the animal it once was, curling and twisting with the humidity. He ensures the heavy brass clasps are securely fastened, locking the pages in their eternal slumber. The scent here is different, sharper, more acidic, like the smell of a dry autumn forest. It contrasts with the rich, buttery aroma of the new leather at his workbench. These are the different stages of a library's life. The raw potential of the new, the sturdy reliability of the middle-aged, and the brittle, dignified fragility of the ancient. He moves to the heavy velvet curtains and pulls them aside just a fraction of an inch. Outside, the city of Prague is a silhouette of jagged spires and chimneys against a bruised purple sky. The moon reflects off the Vltava, turning the water into a ribbon of hammered silver. A few distant lights flicker in the castle windows on the hill, where the emperor likely sits among his globes and star charts. The world out there is cold and vast, filled with the noise of history in the making, but here, inside the scholar's library, the air is still. The binder lets the curtain fall back into place, the heavy fabric muffling the world once more. He returns to the hearth and takes a heavy iron lid, placing it over the remaining coals to bank the fire for the night. The bright orange glow vanishes, replaced by a soft, pulsing crimson that barely illuminates the floor. He picks up his pewter tankard, draining the last of the spiced ale, the cool metal a final tactile anchor to the day's work. He looks at his workbench one last time. The scraps of leather, the bone folder, the tiny flakes of gold, they are the discarded husks of creation. Tomorrow, he will open the press and reveal the finished work, but for now, the mystery remains hidden in the dark wood. The library is ready for the night. The shadows are long and deep, wrapping around the shelves like a protective cloak. You feel the weight of your own eyelids growing heavy, influenced by the profound stillness of the room and the rhythmic, slow pace of the binder's movements. The intellectual peace of the 1590s is a heavy, comforting blanket, and as the last candle flickers and dies, the scent of beeswax and old paper lingers in the darkness, a promise of continuity in an ever-changing world. The final candle surrenders to the darkness, its wick glowing a brief, intense red before fading into a thin trail of smoke that wanders toward the rafters. In the absolute velvet of the Prague night, the library does not disappear. it merely changes its form. You can no longer see the titles on the spines or the intricate grain of the oak, but you can feel them. The room has a weight, a density born from millions of words resting in silence. The master binder stands for a moment in the center of the hall, letting his eyes adjust to the pale starlight filtering through the high clerestory windows. He knows every inch of this labyrinth by touch. He navigates by the scent of the materials, the sharp tang of the alum-toured leather to his left, the sweet heavy scent of the beeswax to his right, and the metallic breath of the iron press straight ahead. His mind wanders back to the book resting in the press. It is a collection of astronomical observations, a bridge between the old world of Ptolemy and the new world of Tycho Brahe. He thinks of the gold he applied to the cover the way it felt like he was pinning down a piece of the sun itself. To the scholar who will eventually own this volume, the gold is a symbol of status and divine light. To the binder, it is a fickle material that requires a steady hand and a calm soul. He feels a quiet pride knowing that his work will facilitate the study of the heavens. He is the quiet architect of the scholar's journey, building the staircase of leather and thread that allows the mind to climb toward the stars. This realization brings a deep sense of intellectual peace, a feeling of being a necessary, though invisible, part of the great human endeavor. The library is never truly silent. As the building cools, the stone walls contract with a low grounding groan. The oak shelves settle under the weight of the folios, creating a series of soft, rhythmic clicks that sound like the gears of a great, slow-moving clock. It is a comforting sound, a reminder that the library is a living entity, breathing and shifting in its sleep. You find yourself drifting in this atmosphere of physical comfort and historical resonance. The heavy velvet curtains act as a barrier against the passage of time, holding the essence of 1590 within these four walls, while the centuries wait outside. The scent of glue and old paper is a grounding anchor, preventing your mind from wandering too far into the anxieties of the future. Here, in the heart of Bohemia, the only thing that matters is the integrity of the stitch and the clarity of the thought. If you have enjoyed this journey into the quiet craftsmanship of the past, please take a moment to support our work, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a night in the library. Your engagement allows us to continue bringing these forgotten moments of history to life. Share this video with someone who needs a moment of peace tonight, and let us know in the comments which part of the binder's craft you found most soothing. The master binder slowly makes his way toward the door, his hand trailing along the edge of the workbench. He touches the cold iron of the press one last time, a silent good night to his masterpiece. He feels the smoothness of the wood and the unyielding strength of the screw. The book is safe. It is being forged in the silence, its components bonding together to become a singular, enduring object. As he reaches the heavy oak door, he looks back into the shadows. The library is a temple of memory, a fortress of the mind. He steps out into the cool hallway, the door closing with a heavy, muffled click that seals the sanctuary. Sleepy History with Wesley is a sleep history storytelling platform created for entertainment, inspiration, education, and the promotion of positive emotional values. The binder's footsteps fade down the stone corridor, but the library remains alive in its own quiet way. Even without the presence of the master, the room continues its slow, atmospheric work. The moonlight, now a sharp and silvery blade, slices through the high windows and lands across the rolling oak ladders. The wood seems to absorb the pale light, glowing with a soft, ethereal luster that highlights every scratch and dent earned over decades of use. You can almost see the ghosts of the scholars who once inhabited this space, their phantom fingers tracing the spines of the very books that surround you now. The silence here is thick, layered with the weight of Latin verses, mathematical proofs, and the sprawling genealogies of kings. It is a silence that invites contemplation, a heavy, velvet-wrapped peace that shields the mind from the trivialities of the outside world. In the center of the room, the workbench remains a silent witness to the day's labor. The smell of the humid glue pot has begun to dissipate, leaving behind the drier, more persistent scents of the library. the vanillic sweetness of decaying lignin in the old paper and the sharp, clean scent of the recently applied beeswax polish on the shelves. This is the olfactory map of the 16th century. A time when everything was tactile, everything was organic. There are no plastics here, no synthetic scents, only the raw elements of nature transformed by human ingenuity. The dark brown leather scraps left on the floor look like curled autumn leaves, their rich colour a testament to the oak bark and iron salts used in their tanning. Each scrap represents a choice made by the binder, a pursuit of perfection that defines the scholar's library. As you linger in the shadows, you notice the way the library regulates its own temperature. The thick stone walls built to withstand the sieges and winters of Prague hold the heat of the day's hearth like a slow-burning battery. The air is cool but not biting, a crispness that keeps the senses sharp while the body remains relaxed. The heavy velvet curtains hanging in deep folds vibrate almost imperceptibly with the wind that buffets the exterior of the building. They are the lungs of the room, filtering the harshness of the night into a rhythmic, soothing thrum. You feel a sense of profound physical comfort, as if you are tucked into the very binding of the world itself. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the sight of the heavy wooden press, standing like a monolithic guardian over the book it holds. Inside that press, the magic of the binding is reaching its zenith. The fibers of the leather are tightening as they dry, pulling the material taut against the wooden boards. The glue is migrating into the pores of the paper and the grain of the skin, creating a bond that will require centuries of neglect to break. This is the alchemy of the binder turning separate, disparate parts into a unified whole. It is a metaphor for the library itself, a collection of individual voices, often separated by centuries and continents, brought together under one roof to form a singular body of knowledge. The gold leaf, hidden now in the darkness of the press's jaws, waits for the morning sun to reignite its fire. It is a patient gold, a metal that does not tarnish, mirroring the enduring nature of the truths contained within the pages. The shadows move slowly across the floor as the moon climbs higher over the spires of Prague. You can hear the distant, muffled sound of a watchman's cry in the street below, a lonely human voice lost in the vastness of the stone city. It only serves to emphasize the isolation and safety of this sanctuary. Here the passage of time is measured not by hours, but by the drying of ink and the setting of glue. The intellectual peace is absolute. There is no pressure to produce, only the requirement to preserve. As you breathe in the cool, paper-scented air, you feel the tension of your own life melting away, replaced by the slow-motion rhythm of 1590. The library is a world unto itself, a fortress of thought where the flickering light of human curiosity is never truly extinguished, even in the deepest part of the night. The deep stillness of the middle of the night brings a new character to the library. In this hour, the heavy oak shelves seem to lean closer together, as if sharing secrets that only books can whisper when no one is there to read them. The shadows are no longer just absences of light. They are thick, textured presences that wrap around the rolling ladders and the tall, arched windows. You can feel the sheer volume of history pressing against the air, the weight of the parchment, the density of the ink, and the strength of the flaxen threads that bind each folio. The scent of the room has settled into a deep, earthy perfume, a mix of old dry wood and the cooling ashes of the hearth. It is a grounding atmosphere that suggests permanence. In 1590, the world feels fragile, yet this room feels eternal, a bastion of intellectual peace that has weathered the storms of 100 winters. Near the binder's workbench, a small jar of linseed oil catches a stray beam of moonlight, glowing like a liquid amber jewel. This oil, used to keep the leather supple and the wood healthy, adds a nutty, rich undertone to the air. Everything in this room has a purpose, a physical weight, and a history. The binder's tools, the bone folder, the brass wheels, the iron shears, rest in their leather rolls, cooling in the evening chill. They are extensions of his hands, the instruments through which human thought is given a physical form. You can almost feel the phantom vibration of the work that happened here just hours ago. The transition from raw hide to sacred object is a slow one, a meditation on patience that you can feel in your very bones. This room does not ask you to hurry, it asks you to stay, to listen, and to belong to the continuity of the ages. Looking up into the vaulted ceiling, the darkness feels like a vast protective ocean. The stone ribs of the architecture hold the space open, creating a cavern of quiet where your own breathing becomes a rhythmic companion to the settling of the building. There is a profound physical comfort in being surrounded by stone and wood, materials that have been here long before you and will remain long after. The heavy velvet curtains, thick and dust-scented, are the guardians of this silence, blocking out the echoes of horse hooves on the Prague cobblestones and the distant cries of the night watch. Inside this cocoon, the only reality is the scent of beeswax and the promise of the book in the press. The library is a world unto itself, a laboratory of the soul, where the chaos of the outside world is filtered through the lens of wisdom and careful craftsmanship. As you sit in this imagined corner of history, the tension leaves your shoulders. The world of 1590 was one of great discovery and great danger, but here the danger is kept at bay by the strength of the walls and the dedication of the binder. You are part of a lineage of observers who have found solace in the smell of old paper and the shine of gold leaf. The intellectual peace of this sanctuary is contagious. It slows the heart and clears the mind, allowing you to focus on the simple, beautiful reality of a craft well mastered. The gold on the spines of the books nearby glints occasionally, a reminder that even in the dark there is light preserved in the form of knowledge. The room is a testament to the idea that some things are worth the slow, meticulous passage of time. As the moonlight shifts, illuminating the intricate carvings on the end of a shelf, you feel a sense of total immersion. The boundary between the present and the past thins until it disappears. You are no longer a modern observer. You are a guest of the 16th century, resting in the quiet aftermath of creation. The library breathes with you, a slow, deep respiration of dust and wisdom. Every element of the room, from the rolling ladders to the velvet drapes, conspires to create a sense of safety and wonder. Sleepy History with Wesley combines the power of AI to reimagine fictional historical tales, bringing peace, relaxation, and positive emotional values to our listeners. The hour has arrived when the moon sits at its zenith over the spires of the tin church, casting a cold, brilliant glow that penetrates even the thickest panes of leaded glass. Within the library, this light transforms the space into a dreamscape of silver and ink. The master binder's workbench, now dormant, looks like a silent altar to a forgotten god of industry. The scattered tools, the awls, the paring knives, and the heavy iron weights cast long, sharp shadows that stretch across the floorboards like the fingers of time. You can feel the coolness of the air now, a crispness that makes the warmth of the heavy velvet curtains feel even more vital. These curtains, with their deep folds of crimson and shadow, act as a thermal barrier, holding in the residual heat of the day and creating a pocket of absolute stillness. The scent of the room has evolved. The primary notes of glue and wet leather have retreated, replaced by the dry, majestic aroma of aged parchment and the faint, ozone-like smell of the cold stone walls. To stand in the center of this room is to feel the weight of 1,000 minds. Every volume on the oak shelves is a voice, a legacy, a fragment of the human story captured in ink. The rolling ladders, standing motionless on their tracks, look like the ribs of a great wooden ship sailing through an ocean of thought. You can almost hear the soft, phantom rustle of pages being turned by scholars long dead. This is the ultimate expression of intellectual peace, a place where the frantic pace of the world is barred entry. In 1590, the streets of Prague might be alive with the intrigue of the emperor's court or the clatter of mercenary boots, but in here the only movement is the slow, imperceptible drying of the binder's latest creation. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the sheer physical mass of the books. Millions of pages, hand-sewn and hand-pressed, create a soundproofing that no modern material could replicate. The binder's chair, empty and waiting, sits near the banked fire. Its leather upholstery is worn smooth at the arms, a testament to the hours spent in contemplation. You can imagine him sitting there, his hands resting on his knees, his eyes tracing the patterns of the ceiling beams. He is a man who understands the value of the slow burn. In this era there is no artificial light to chase away the night, only the natural cycle of the sun and the moon. This forced rhythm brings a sense of physical comfort that is rare in the modern age. Your body begins to synchronize with the library's heartbeat. Your breathing slows, matching the steady rhythmic settling of the old timber. The scent of beeswax, ever present, acts as a soothing balm, its floral and honeyed undertones reminding you of the summer meadows of Bohemia, even as the evening chill lingers outside the walls. As you look toward the heavy wooden press, you see the silhouette of the iron screw standing tall and resolute. It is the silent guardian of the work. Inside its grasp, the new book is undergoing its final transformation. The fibers of the dark brown leather are becoming one with the oak boards, a union that will endure for centuries. The gold leaf pressed deep into the grain is now a permanent part of the object's identity. This is the beauty of the craft, the taking of raw earthly materials and elevating them through patience and skill. The library honors this effort. It provides the perfect environment for such work to thrive, a sanctuary of silence, a fortress of solitude, and a cathedral of memory. You feel a deep sense of security here, wrapped in the history and the scent of old paper, knowing that the world's knowledge is safe and that for tonight, you are its sole witness. The starlight begins to shift, moving across the floor and illuminating a small stack of discarded parchment scraps near the workbench. They look like pale ghosts in the gloom. The binder will use these tomorrow for testing his stamps or reinforcing the inner hinges of a smaller volume. Nothing is wasted in 1590. Every scrap of material is precious, a gift from the natural world to be used with respect. This sense of thrift and purpose adds to the grounding nature of the scene. Every object has a story, every scent has a source, and every shadow has a meaning. As you lose yourself in the textures of the library, the rough stone, the smooth wood, the soft velvet, the distractions of your own mind fade away. There is only the here and the now, the dark leather and the cold gold, and the eternal peace of the scholar's library in the heart of old Prague. The deep midnight hours in the library bring a profound sense of solitude that is neither lonely nor cold. It is a companionable silence, as if the room itself is a living mentor, breathing through the flues of the chimneys and the porous surfaces of the old oak. You find yourself standing before a massive atlas, its brass corners catching the dying ember glow from the hearth. The weight of the world is literally held within these shelves, maps of uncharted seas, descriptions of celestial bodies, and the intricate anatomical drawings of the human form. In 1590, the library is the only place where a man can travel to the moon and back without ever leaving his chair. This intellectual peace is a luxury of the spirit, a rare gift in an age of physical toil. The grounding atmosphere is palpable. You can almost feel the gravity of the knowledge pressing down upon the floorboards, anchoring the building to the very bedrock of Prague. As you move through the shadows, your hand brushes against a row of small octavo-sized volumes bound in white vellum. They feel cool and smooth like polished river stones. These are the works of the poets and the philosophers, the portable wisdom of the Renaissance. The scent of the library here is lighter, with a hint of dried lavender and old glue, a delicate contrast to the heavy, muscular aroma of the leather-bound folios in the lower tiers. The master binder's presence is everywhere, even in his absence. You see the marks of his precision in the perfectly aligned rows and the lack of dust on the top edges of the books. He treats these volumes with the reverence a priest might give to a relic. This level of care creates a sense of physical comfort and safety. You're in a place where things are cherished, where the passage of time is not feared but embraced as a collaborator in the creation of beauty. The rolling ladders, those skeletal towers of oak, seem to wait for a hand to guide them. You imagine the sound they make, a low, rhythmic rumble that vibrates through the soles of your feet, a sound of industry and curiosity. The library is a maze of verticality, encouraging the eye and the mind to always look upward, beyond the immediate and toward the eternal. The heavy velvet curtains, now completely still, have done their job well. The room is a thermal sanctuary, a pocket of 1590 preserved in amber. You feel the grounding weight of your own body as you lean against a sturdy reading desk. The wood is cool and unyielding, a solid foundation in a world that often feels like shifting sand. This is the ultimate comfort of the library, the reassurance that while empires may fall and kings may change, the written word, guarded by the binder's craft, remains a constant North Star. In the distance, beyond the thick stone walls, you hear the faint, haunting sound of a flute, perhaps a musician in a nearby tavern or a lonely soul in the street. The melody is thin and ethereal, barely penetrating the silence of the library. It serves only to highlight the density of the peace within. Here the air is thick with the scent of beeswax and history, a combination that acts like a sedative for the restless mind. The binder's workbench, with its neatly arranged tools and its lingering scent of dark brown leather, remains the heart of the room. It is the place where the abstract becomes tangible. You think of the gold leaf once more, how it is currently being pressed into the grain of the cover, a marriage of light and earth. This process of binding is a slow-motion miracle, a quiet rebellion against the entropy of the universe. The library's atmosphere is a symphony of subtle textures. The roughness of the stone, the grain of the wood, the softness of the velvet, and the crispness of the parchment all play their part. As you stand in the flickering shadows, you realize that this room is a fortress not just for books but for the human soul. It provides the quietude necessary for the birth of new ideas and the preservation of old ones. The intellectual peace found here is a deep, resonant hum that vibrates in the chest, a feeling of being exactly where one belongs in the grand tapestry of history. The 1590s are a turbulent time, but within this sanctuary in Prague, the only thing that moves is the shadow of a cloud across the moon. You are safe. You are grounded. You are a part of the silence that has watched over the world's wisdom for centuries. The pre-dawn stillness of the library is the deepest silence one can experience. It is the time when the cold stone of the Prague walls seems to pulse with a low grounding frequency, anchoring the thousands of volumes in place. The moonlight has moved, now illuminating only the very tops of the rolling oak ladders, making them look like silver pathways leading into the heavens. You are standing in a world of shadows and scents where the intellectual peace is so thick you can almost touch it. The aroma of the library has reached its most complex state. The cooling embers of the hearth provide a base of wood smoke, topped by the sharp, clean scent of iron from the binder's tools and the persistent sweet musk of the dark brown leather. It is a sensory experience that speaks of safety, tradition, and the quiet triumph of the human mind over the chaotic passage of time. You find yourself drawn back to the master's workbench. Even in the gloom you can see the ghost of the day's work. A small spill of sand used for blotting ink remains on the edge of the wood, its grains tiny and crystalline. The bone folder rests exactly where it was left, its pale surface reflecting the dim light. This is the physical comfort of a space dedicated to a single noble purpose. Every object here is a tool for preservation. In 1590, the act of binding a book is a slow, meditative process that requires one to be fully present. You feel that presence now, a grounding atmosphere that pulls you away from the worries of the future and into the tactile reality of the 16th century. The heavy velvet curtains, though dark, offer a sense of luxury and protection, a soft barrier between the scholar's sanctuary and the biting chill of the bohemian night. As you look up at the towering shelves, you realize that each book is a person's life work, held together by the very techniques you witnessed tonight. The leather, the glue, and the gold are more than just materials. They are the armor of civilization. The intellectual peace of this room comes from the knowledge that these ideas are safe. They are protected from the damp, the dust, and the passage of years by the skill of the binder. You can almost feel the weight of the gold leaf pressed into the spine of the volume in the press. A tiny, brilliant secret waiting for the morning sun to reveal it. This is the ultimate satisfaction of the craftsman, knowing that long after he is gone, his hands will still be holding these words together for someone else to discover. If you feel the weight of the day lifting as you wander through these ancient shelves, please subscribe and join our community of history seekers. Like this video to help us preserve these stories, and tell us in the comments, if you could choose one book from this library to read by the fire, what would it be? Your support is the thread that binds our community together, allowing us to keep these peaceful histories alive for everyone. The library begins to breathe a little differently. as the first hint of morning light touches the high windows. It is not yet day, but the absolute blackness is softening into a deep, regal indigo. The rolling ladders remain silent, their wheels locked for the night, but they seem ready to spring into action at the first sign of a scholar's need. You take a final look at the maze of oak and leather, feeling a profound sense of gratitude for this moment of peace. The grounding atmosphere of 1590 Prague is a reminder that even in a world of change, some things like the scent of old paper, the warmth of a hearth, and the steady hand of a master binder are timeless. The physical comfort of this space remains with you, a heavy, warm blanket of history that promises rest and renewal before the work of the new day begins. The transition between the deep night and the early blue of morning is a sacred time in the scholar's library. The indigo light begins to seep through the upper windows, revealing the dust motes that hang suspended in the air like microscopic constellations. These tiny particles are the literal remains of history, flecks of skin, fibers of flax, and microscopic fragments of stone from the Prague streets. The library feels vast and infinite in this half-light, the rolling oak ladders appearing as dark, jagged pillars reaching toward a heaven of hidden knowledge. You can feel the coldness of the stone floor through your boots, a grounding sensation that connects you to the foundations of this ancient city. The air remains heavy with the scent of beeswax and the faint sour tang of the glue pot, a combination that has defined this room for decades. As the light strengthens, the dark brown leather of the spines on the lower shelves begins to regain its color. You can see the variations in the grain, the way the light plays over the textures of goat, calf, and pigskin. Each book has a different temperature to the touch. The leather-bound volumes feel warm and organic, while those with brass clasps and iron bosses feel icy and formidable. The intellectual piece of this moment is profound. There is no one here to demand an answer, no one to challenge a theory. There is only the silent presence of the past, waiting to be rediscovered. The physical comfort of the room is found in its stability. In a century where the political landscape of Europe is shifting like a desert dune, these walls of stone and these shelves of oak represent an unwavering commitment to the truth. The heavy velvet curtains are now visible in their true color, a deep, regal crimson that has faded to a gentle rose where the sun has kissed it over the years. They are the guardians of the atmosphere, keeping the morning mist from the Vltava River from dampening the precious parchment. You imagine the master binder waking in his small room nearby, preparing his mind for the precision required of his hands. Soon he will return to release the book from the press. The tension in the air is one of quiet anticipation. The book, having spent the night in the iron grip of the press, is now a unified object. The glue has cured, the leather has set, and the gold leaf is bonded to the surface with a permanence that defies the element. You find yourself wandering toward the back of the library, where the shadows still linger. Here the scent of old paper is at its strongest. It is a dry, comforting smell, like the scent of a forest in a long drought. It reminds you of the transience of life and the permanence of the written word. This grounding atmosphere is a balm for the modern soul, a reminder that we are part of a long chain of human experience. The rolling ladders stand ready, their brass wheels polished by the friction of movement, waiting to carry a scholar to the highest reaches of human thought. The library is a maze, yes, but it is a maze where every path leads toward enlightenment. The physical comfort of the scene, the velvet, the oak, the leather, is the reward for the intellectual labor that takes place here. As the first true ray of sunlight hits the top of a shelf, the gold on the spines begins to ignite, one by one, like a row of tiny suns. The room is waking up. The intellectual peace of the night is being replaced by the energetic potential of the day. You feel a sense of renewal, a physical and mental lightness that comes from having spent the night in such a sanctuary. The grounding atmosphere of the Scholars' Library in 1590 Prague is not just a historical memory, it is a living presence that resonates in the heart of anyone who values the quiet, meticulous work of the human hand and the enduring power of the human mind. The scent of beeswax and old paper lingers, a final soothing reminder of the peace you have found here among the leather and the gold. The morning sun now begins its slow, deliberate ascent, casting long fingers of pale gold through the leaded glass panes. The light hits the dust motes, turning the air into a shimmering veil that hangs between the shelves. In this shifting light, the library reveals its true architecture. The oak beams above, scarred by time and blackened by the smoke of centuries of candles, appear like the ribs of an ancient leviathan. You can feel the room expanding as the shadows retreat into the corners. The grounding atmosphere remains, but it has shifted from the heavy, nocturnal peace of the night to a vibrant, expectant stillness. The scent of the room is refreshed by the morning air that manages to seep through the stonework, a mix of damp river mist from the Vltava and the ever-present, comforting perfume of old paper and beeswax. You find yourself drawn to the center of the room, where the binder's workbench sits bathed in a pool of natural light. The dark brown leather scraps left from the previous evening now show their true complexity, hues of mahogany, chestnut, and deep espresso. You reach out to touch one, and the surface is cool and slightly textured under your fingertips. It is a material that feels honest, born of the earth and refined by the hand. This tactile connection is the essence of physical comfort in the 16th century. There is no synthetic imitation here. Everything is exactly what it appears to be. The intellectual peace of the library is reinforced by this honesty. In a world where the truth can be obscured by political intrigue or religious fervor, the physical reality of the book is a constant. The rolling ladders, standing still in the morning light, seem to glow with a renewed purpose. You can see the wear on the rungs where generations of scholars have placed their feet, climbing toward the heavens of Greek philosophy or the depths of Hermetic mysteries. The library is a vertical city, and these ladders are its thoroughfares. As you look up, the sheer volume of the collection is breathtaking. Thousands of books, each with its own weight, its own smell, and its own secret, create a sanctuary that is impenetrable to the chaos of the outside world. The grounding atmosphere is not just a feeling, it is a physical force generated by the mass of all those words. The heavy velvet curtains, though they have been drawn against the evening chill, now seem to pulse with the light behind them. They are like a heart, regulating the life of the room. You can hear the distant sounds of Prague waking up, the cry of a street vendor, the rumble of a cart over the cobblestones. But these sounds are thin and inconsequential compared to the deep, resonant silence of the books. Here, the only thing that matters is the integrity of the thought and the quality of the binding. You feel a sense of security that is rare and precious. The library is a fortress for the mind, and you are its honored guest. As you wait for the master binder to return, you realize that the process of binding is a metaphor for life itself. We take the raw experiences of our lives, the leather and the parchment, and we stitch them together with the thread of our choices. We apply the gold leaf of our aspirations, and we press them in the iron screw of our discipline. The resulting book is our story, a vessel for our wisdom that will outlast our physical form. This realization brings a profound sense of intellectual peace. The library is not just a storage space, it is a testament to the human desire for continuity. The scent of beeswax and old paper is the scent of that desire, a grounding and comforting reminder that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. The library is now fully held in the grip of the morning's first true hour. The golden light has deepened from a pale straw to a rich honey, illuminating the spines of the books until the entire room seems to glow from within. You can see the fine layer of dust on the upper shelves, a soft grey blanket that speaks of years of undisturbed thought. The rolling oak ladders stand like frozen lightning bolts against the shelves, their wood shimmering where the sun hits the oil-rubbed grain. The intellectual piece of the room is now active, a humming energy that invites you to pull a volume from its resting place and lose yourself in the diagrams of celestial spheres or the intricate maps of the Holy Roman Empire. The scent of the room is at its most vibrant. The beeswax is warmed by the sun, releasing a floral sweetness that mingles with the musk of the dark brown leather. You move closer to the iron press, the center of the binder's universe. The heavy wood and metal structure looks different in the daylight. It is less of a shadow and more of a monument to permanence. You can see the subtle tension in the iron screw, holding the book in a state of suspended animation. The physical comfort of the scene comes from this sight of completed labor. There is something deeply grounding about a task that requires a night of rest to reach fruition. In our modern world of instant results, the 1590s library reminds us that the best things, knowledge, craft, and soul, take time to set. The grounding atmosphere is a heavy, warm presence, like the sun on your back as you stand by the window. The heavy velvet curtains are still mostly drawn, but where the light leaks through the edges, it reveals the intricate weave of the fabric. It is a material that has seen empires rise and fall, yet it remains steadfast in its duty to protect the sanctuary. You can hear the distant, muffled chime of the astronomical clock in the old town square, a reminder that time is moving outside, even if it feels stationary here. But in the library, time is measured by the aging of paper, the patina of leather, and the slow deepening of the oak's color. This is the ultimate comfort, the realization that some things are beyond the reach of the clock. As you look around the maze of shelves, you notice the small details that were hidden by the night. A stray feather from a quill lies on the floor, a small droplet of dried wax on a reading desk, the way the light catches the metallic edges of a brass clasp. These are the footprints of the intellectual journey. Every mark is a story. The library is not just a room of objects, but a room of actions. The master binder's craft is the final stage of a long process that begins with a thought and ends with a legacy. You feel a sense of profound safety in this cycle. The library is a fortress, and its walls are built of leather, wood, and gold. The scent of old paper is particularly strong near the older sections of the library, where the vellum is yellowed and the ink has faded to a soft brown. It is a scent that carries the weight of the past, a dry and dignified aroma that demands respect. As you breathe it in, you feel your own thoughts becoming clearer, more focused. The intellectual peace of the scholar's library is a gift of clarity. It strips away the noise and leaves only the essence. This grounding atmosphere, combined with the physical comfort of the surroundings, creates a state of mind where anything is possible. You are standing in 1590 Prague, and the world is waiting to be bound. The morning air in the library has now reached a perfect, crisp equilibrium. The sun is high enough that its rays strike the lower shelves, revealing the deep, varying grains of the oak and the rich, weathered character of the dark brown leather. As you walk toward the great windows, your boots click softly on the stone, a sound that feels swallowed by the sheer mass of the books. Every step you take is a journey through a decade of history. You pass by folios of law, medicine, and philosophy, their spines standing like a phalanx of soldiers guarding the gates of human reason. The grounding atmosphere here is almost magnetic. It pulls you into the present moment, stripping away any lingering fragments of the dreams you might have had in the night. The scent of the library has become a bright, complex perfume of cedarwood, dried ink, and the earthy, primal smell of the tanned hides. You stop by a rolling ladder and place your hand on its side. The wood is cool and incredibly smooth, polished by the palms of countless thinkers who sought the highest shelves to reach for the most obscure truths. There is a profound physical comfort in this touch, a connection to the tangible reality of 1590. Here, knowledge isn't something fleeting or digital. It is a heavy physical weight that requires strength to carry and care to preserve. The intellectual peace of the room is found in this slow, deliberate interaction. You don't browse the shelves with a flick of a finger. You move the ladder, you climb the rungs, and you feel the weight of the tome in your arms. This physical effort grounds the mind, making the acquisition of knowledge feel like a sacred ritual rather than a casual task. Near the windows, the heavy velvet curtains have been partially pulled back by a morning breeze that found a gap in the masonry. The light now spills onto a large reading desk, illuminating a half-finished manuscript. The paper is thick and textured, made of rag and flax, and it possesses a creamy, inviting glow. The ink is a deep lamp black, standing out against the page with a slight shimmer. The library's scent is joined here by the faint, herbal aroma of the garden below, hints of rosemary and lavender that have drifted up from the scholar's courtyard. This blend of the organic and the intellectual creates a sanctuary that is both stimulating and deeply relaxing. It is a place where the body feels rested and the mind feels alive, a perfect harmony of physical comfort and mental clarity. Looking back toward the center of the room, the binder's workbench remains the focal point of the morning. The glue pot has cooled completely, its contents now a solid, translucent amber. The tools are laid out with a geometric precision that reflects the binder's orderly mind. You can see the gold leaf box, its lid closed, but the memory of the brilliance inside lingers in your mind. The book in the press is now a finished vessel waiting for the master to come and breathe life into its pages by opening them for the first time. The intellectual piece of this scene is the piece of completion. The work has been done, the materials have been bonded, and the object is ready to take its place among the giants on the shelves. The library in Prague, in the year 1590, is a fortress of the spirit. Outside, the world may be changing with the speed of a galloping horse, but within these oak-lined walls, the pace is set by the slow drip of a candle and the steady turning of a page. You feel a deep sense of security, wrapped in the scent of old paper and the protective embrace of the stone. This grounding atmosphere is a reminder that the pursuit of wisdom is an eternal constant. As you breathe in the cooling, sun-drenched air, you are filled with a sense of quiet wonder. The library is a maze, a treasure house, and a home, all bound together by the skill of the craftsman and the enduring curiosity of the human heart. The sun has finally crested the jagged rooftops of Prague, and the library is now flooded with a brilliant, clear light that chases the last of the ghosts from the corners. The dark brown leather on the shelves seems to vibrate with colour, deep umbers, burnt siennas, and rich, chocolate tones that make the room feel warm and rooted. This is the hour when the physical comfort of the library is at its peak. The stone walls have absorbed enough of the morning sun to lose their bite, and the air is filled with the dancing particles of time itself. You can feel the grounding atmosphere in the very floorboards, which are thick, ancient planks of oak that have held the weight of this massive collection for generations. The scent of the room is now dominated by the warming beeswax and the dry, noble fragrance of aged parchment, a scent that acts as a bridge between the physical world and the world of ideas. As you walk among the maze of shelves, you notice the rhythmic pattern of the spines. Each one is a unique sculpture of leather and gold, yet together they form a unified wall of wisdom. The rolling ladders stand like silent sentinels, their brass wheels reflecting the sunlight in sharp, dazzling points. You realize that the intellectual peace of this place comes from its order. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable, the library is a bastion of structure. Everything is categorized, bound, and placed with intention. This sense of order is deeply soothing. It provides a framework for the mind to wander without getting lost. The heavy velvet curtains, now glowing with a rich inner light, dampen the sounds of the waking city, ensuring that the sanctuary remains undisturbed. You find yourself returning to the binder's workbench, which looks like a different world in the full light of day. The tools that seemed mysterious and sharp in the candlelight now appear as honest instruments of creation. The bone folder, the paring knives, and the heavy iron weights are all worn smooth by use, their surfaces telling the story of thousands of hours of labor. The grounding atmosphere of the workbench is a reminder of the human element in knowledge. A book is not just a collection of thoughts, it is a physical object made by a human hand. The dark brown leather that was once raw hide has been transformed through patience and skill into a vessel for eternity. This tactile reality is a source of profound physical comfort, a reminder that we can shape our world through dedicated craft. The book in the press is the star of this morning performance. The sunlight hits the top of the iron screw, casting a long, straight shadow across the workbench. You can imagine the density of the book inside, the way the pages have been compressed into a solid, singular block, and the way the leather has molded itself to every curve of the wood and string. The intellectual peace of this moment is the peace of the fixed word. Once the book is bound, the ideas inside are set. They are no longer fleeting thoughts but permanent records. The gold leaf, though hidden, is now a part of the book's soul, a promise of the light that is found within its covers. As the morning progresses, the library seems to settle into its daytime rhythm. The shadows of the rolling ladders move slowly across the floor, tracking the passage of the sun. The scent of old paper and glue remains a constant, grounding presence, a familiar and comforting anchor in the shifting light. You feel a sense of absolute safety here, a physical and mental security that is rare and precious. The library of 1590 Prague is more than a room. It is a state of being. It is a place where the scent of beeswax, the texture of leather, and the shine of gold all work together to create a sanctuary of intellectual peace and physical comfort. You breathe in deeply, letting the history of the room fill your lungs. And for a moment, you are as timeless as the books themselves. The full brightness of the morning now commands the library, and the dust that danced in the shadows earlier has settled into a quiet shimmer. The rolling oak ladders, once mere shapes in the gloom, now stand as magnificent examples of engineering, their dark wood polished to a mirror shine by the passage of time. You walk between the towering shelves and the air feels charged with a silent electricity, the collective potential of millions of printed words. This is the heart of intellectual peace. In this room, the frantic debates of the 1590s are stilled, preserved in the amber of leather and ink. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the heavy velvet curtains which, though now vibrant in the daylight, still hold their massive protective weight, acting as a soft wall between you and the bustling streets of Prague. You stop to admire the craftsmanship of a shelf of law books. Their spines are deep, uniform chocolate brown, each stamped with identical gold crests. The repetition is hypnotic, a visual representation of order and stability. The scent of the library has shifted again. The coolness of the morning has evaporated, and the warmth of the sun on the wood has released a deeper, resinous aroma of cedar and pine. It is a grounding, earthy smell that makes you feel rooted to the spot. The physical comfort of the room is undeniable. The thickness of the walls, the sturdiness of the furniture, and the soft, dusty air all conspire to make you feel as though you are protected within a great ancient cocoon. If you find yourself losing track of time within these walls, please consider joining our journey into the past. Subscribe to our channel to help us keep this library's fire burning, and hit the like button if the scent of old paper is your favorite kind of perfume. Comment below, what secret knowledge would you hope to find in a hidden volume from 1590? Your engagement ensures that these stories of peace and craft reach the ears of all who need them. As you turn back toward the binder's area, you see the master's shadow lengthening across the threshold. He has returned to finish what he started in the dark of the night. He moves with a deliberate, slow grace, his presence adding a final layer of human warmth to the room. He approaches the iron press, his hand resting briefly on the cold metal before he begins to turn the screw. The sound of the wood relaxing, a series of soft, rhythmic creaks, is the sound of a birth. The book is being released from its long, pressured sleep. You can feel the anticipation in the air, a sharpening of the intellectual peace as the object of his labor is finally revealed. The binder lifts the volume from the press, and for a moment the gold leaf on the spine catches a direct beam of sunlight. The flash is blinding, a spark of pure brilliance that seems to illuminate the entire library. The dark brown leather is now supple and firm, perfectly encasing the wisdom within. He runs his thumb over the grain, a final tactile check of his work. This is the ultimate physical comfort, the feeling of a job well done, of a material mastered, and of a vessel created to outlive its creator. The library, with its maze of shelves and its scent of beeswax and history, seems to sigh in collective satisfaction. The new book is home, and the sanctuary remains, as it always has been, a world unto itself. The binder holds the new volume with a reverence that borders on the spiritual. As he slowly opens the cover for the first time, the sound of the fresh leather hinges stretching is like a gentle sigh of relief. You watch as he inspects the inner edges, the marbled end papers swirling with patterns of cerulean and gold that seem to move like liquid in the morning light. The intellectual peace of the room deepens in this moment of revelation. The book is no longer a project, it is a citizen of the library. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the tactile reality of the object, the weight of the handmade paper, the crispness of the typography, and the lingering scent of the oak bark tannins in the dark brown leather. It is a sensory masterpiece, a physical comfort that satisfies the soul as much as the hand. The master moves to one of the rolling oak ladders, his hand sliding up the smooth wood as he prepares to find a permanent home for his creation. You follow him with your eyes as he climbs, the ladder swaying almost imperceptibly with his weight. From this height, the library looks like a canyon of knowledge, the tops of the lower shelves forming a dusty golden plateau. He finds a space between two massive folios on alchemy and mathematics, a fitting neighborhood for a book of the stars. As he slides the volume into place, the sound of leather meeting leather is a soft, muffled thrum that echoes through the rafters. The cycle is complete. The maze of shelves has claimed another treasure, and the library's collective weight has grown by just a few more pounds of wisdom. You turn your gaze back to the heavy velvet curtains, which are now being pulled wide by the binder to let in the full glory of the Prague day. The view through the leaded glass reveals the bustling city, the red-tiled roofs, the smoke from morning hearths, and the distant silver ribbon of the Vltava, yet the sounds of the city remain distant, filtered through the thick masonry. The grounding atmosphere of the sanctuary is unshakable. The scent of the room is now a bright, clean mixture of warming wood, cooling iron, and the sweet floral undertone of the beeswax polish. It is a place where you can breathe deeply, free from the anxieties of the 1590s or the pressures of any other era. The physical comfort of the high-backed chairs and the solid reading desks invites you to stay, to linger, and to lose yourself in the pages of history. The binder returns to his workbench and begins the quiet task of cleaning his tools. He wipes the brass stamps with a soft cloth, removing the microscopic traces of gold leaf that still cling to the floral patterns. He polishes the iron shears and folds the remaining scraps of dark brown leather into a neat stack. This ritual of order is as much a part of the craft as the binding itself. It restores the intellectual peace of the workspace, preparing it for the next journey. You feel a sense of profound relaxation watching these simple, repetitive movements. The library is a place of infinite complexity, yet it is built on the foundation of these small, disciplined acts. The grounding nature of the work is what makes the piece possible. As the sun continues to climb, the shadows of the rolling ladders grow shorter, tracing a slow arc across the floorboards. The library settles into its daytime personality, a quiet, light-filled cathedral of thought. The scent of old paper remains the dominant note, a dry and dignified reminder of the endurance of the human spirit. You realize that you have witnessed something rare, the birth of an object that will likely outlast the stones of the building itself. This sense of continuity provides a deep physical comfort. In the heart of 1590 Prague, within this maze of oak and leather, the world is at peace. The gold on the spines flickers one last time in the shifting light, a silent promise that as long as there are binders and scholars, the light of knowledge will never truly fade into the night. The binder, having cleared the main surface of his workbench, pauses for a moment to look out at the sprawling city. From this high vantage point in the scholars' quarters, Prague is a tapestry of stone and life, but the library remains his true world. He picks up a small, fine-bristled brush and begins to sweep away the tiny crumbs of leather and stray threads of linen from the workspace. Each movement is slow and deliberate, a continuation of the meditation that began with the first stitch. The intellectual peace of the room is now so profound that the very air feels dense with it. You can almost feel the presence of the ideas contained within the walls, the mathematical proofs, the philosophical arguments, and the maps of unknown territories, all resting in their leather-bound cradles. The grounding atmosphere is a physical weight, a gentle pressure that keeps you anchored in this specific moment of 1590. The scent of the library has matured as the sun warms the interior. The sharp, wet smell of the glue is a memory, replaced by the deep, resonant scent of the oak shelves themselves. They have spent centuries absorbing the oils from hands and the wax from candles, creating an aroma that is spicy, rich, and unmistakably ancient. The dark brown leather of the newly bound book, now nestled on its shelf, contributes its own earthy musk to the symphony. This is the scent of permanence. It is a grounding experience that reminds you of the stability of the physical world. In the maze of oak and velvet, the chaos of the Renaissance feels like a distant rumor. The physical comfort of the room, with its thick rugs and heavy drapes, creates a sanctuary where the mind can finally rest from its constant searching. You wander toward a rolling ladder that rests near the theological section. The brass wheels are cold to the touch, but the wood of the rails is warm from the sunlight. You imagine the scholars who have stood where you are standing, their hearts racing as they found the specific volume they needed to unlock a mystery of the soul. The library is not just a collection of objects, it is a map of human curiosity. This realization brings a sense of intellectual peace that is both humbling and inspiring. You are part of a long lineage of seekers who have found solace in the quietude of these aisles. The grounding atmosphere of the 1590s is a reminder that while the tools of discovery change, the hunger for knowledge remains constant. The heavy velvet curtains sway gently in a stray draught, the fabric catching the light and revealing the intricate patterns woven into the deep red pile. They are the lungs of the library, exhaling the stale air of the night and inhaling the fresh, cool breeze of the morning. You feel a sense of safety that is absolute. The thick stone walls of the Prague Library are a fortress, not just against the elements, but against the erosion of time. Within these walls, the work of the master binder ensures that the wisdom of the past is preserved for the future. The physical comfort of the scene, the scent of beeswax, the texture of the leather, and the shine of the gold all work together to create a state of perfect, undisturbed tranquility. As the binder prepares to close his workshop for the midday meal, he takes one last look at the room. The shelves are in order, the tools are clean, and the new book is safe. The library is at rest. You feel the weight of your own body settling into the quiet rhythm of the space. The intellectual peace found here is a treasure more valuable than the gold leaf on the covers. It is a peace born of purpose and craft, a grounding atmosphere that lingers in the soul long after you leave the room. The scent of old paper and the memory of the binder's steady hands remain with you, a final, soothing assurance that in the heart of Prague, the light of reason continues to burn bright and steady. The library has reached its midday zenith, the sun hanging high over the Vltava, casting vertical shafts of brilliance that illuminate the deepest recesses of the oak labyrinth. The master binder, now satisfied with the morning's completion, takes a final heavy key from his belt. The sound of the iron key sliding into the lock of his tool chest is sharp and final, a rhythmic punctuation to the story of the book's creation. The intellectual peace here is no longer a silent expectation but a fulfilled promise. You stand amidst the towering shelves, feeling the immense grounding atmosphere of a space that has seen centuries of thought and will see centuries more. The scent of the room has reached its peak complexity, a heavy aromatic blend of sun-warmed cedar, the faint metallic tang of the binder's press, and the sweet honeyed resonance of beeswax that has been buffed into every surface. As you prepare to leave this sanctuary of 1590, your eyes trace the line of the rolling oak ladders one last time. They stand like the pillars of a great bridge, connecting the floor of the present to the high ceilings of history. The physical comfort of the room is almost tangible now, a warm pressure on your skin that feels like the heavy velvet curtains themselves. You realize that the maze of the library is not a place to get lost, but a place to be found. Every spine, every stitch of dark brown leather, and every flake of gold leaf is a marker on the path to understanding. The grounding nature of this environment has stripped away the frantic pace of the modern world, leaving you with a sense of profound stillness and intellectual clarity. Looking back at the workbench, you see it is now a clean, silent stage waiting for tomorrow's labor. The iron press remains, a monolith of industry, though its jaws are empty for the moment. The room is at its quietest now, the city outside muffled by the thick bohemian stone. This is the ultimate comfort, the knowledge that some places exist solely to protect the quiet. The scent of old paper lingers in your nostrils, a dry, comforting farewell that smells of wood smoke and wisdom. It is an aroma that anchors you to the earth, reminding you that ideas, while ethereal, require the solid reality of leather and thread to survive the ages. If this journey into the binder's library has brought you the peace and relaxation you sought, we invite you to stay with us. Subscribe to Sleepy History with Wesley to explore more hidden corners of the past. Like this final chapter of the binder's tale to support our craft, and let us know in the comments what era you would like to drift into next. Your presence here is the greatest honor we can receive, and we thank you for sharing in this meditation on history and craft. The master binder bows his head slightly to the room, a silent acknowledgement of the spirit of the library, before he steps out and closes the heavy oak door. The click of the latch is the final word in this chapter. Inside, the books remain in their silent golden ranks, bathed in the midday sun. The intellectual peace of the library continues, independent of the world outside, a fortress of memory and a cathedral of the mind. As you drift away from the sights and scents of 1590 Prague, the grounding atmosphere of the leather and the gold stays with you, a steady, warm light in the darkness of the night. The heavy oak door has clicked shut, but the story of the library does not end with the departure of the binder. In the sudden vacuum of human movement, the room seems to settle even deeper into its own gravity. The silence is absolute, yet it is a living silence, the kind that exists in a forest when the wind stops. Sunlight continue to crawl across the floorboards, measuring the afternoon with agonizing slowness. You are left alone with the books, the true masters of this domain. The intellectual peace here is no longer a shared experience. It is a private communion between the observer and the observed. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the sheer inertia of the place. These thousands of volumes, some weighing as much as a small child, create a psychic anchor that tethers the mind to the physical reality of the 16th century. As you stand in the center of the nave, the scent of the library undergoes a subtle transformation. Without the binder's active presence, the sharper notes of the workshop, the metallic iron and the fresh glue begin to recede. What remains is the ancient foundational scent of the collection, the vanilla and old grass aroma of decaying cellulose, the spicy depth of the oak shelves, and the pervasive, comforting smell of the dark brown leather. It is a scent that feels like a warm embrace, providing a physical comfort that is rare in a world of harsh surfaces and synthetic materials. Every breath you take is a deep inhalation of time itself. You feel your heart rate slowing to match the tempo of the shadows moving across the spines. You wander toward the section of the library dedicated to the great astronomers, Tycho Brahe and the burgeoning theories of Kepler. Here the spines are often bound in vellum that has turned the color of old bone. The gold leaf on these volumes is applied in delicate celestial patterns, representing the constellations and the orbits of the wandering stars. The intellectual peace found in this corner is astronomical in scale. You are reminded that while the binder works with his hands on the earth, the contents of these books reach for the infinite. This contrast, the heavy tactile leather and the ethereal lofty ideas, creates a grounding atmosphere that is both humbling and expansive. The library is the bridge between the mud of the streets and the light of the stars. The rolling oak ladders, now idle, cast long parallel shadows that look like the tracks of some great invisible engine of thought. You find a heavy velvet-cushioned chair tucked into a corner, its fabric worn thin by decades of use. Sitting here, you experience the ultimate physical comfort of the scholar. The chair supports you with the familiarity of an old friend, and the surrounding walls of books act as a thermal and acoustic barrier. The library is a room within a room, a secret heart pulsing inside the stone body of Prague. The scent of beeswax is particularly concentrated here, likely from the polishing of the nearby reading desks. It is a sweet, waxy and floral scent that acts as a natural sedative for the restless spirit. As the afternoon progresses, the golden light begins to take on a deeper orange hue, signaling the approach of the evening. The library prepares for its second transformation. The gold leaf on the spines, which had been brilliant and sharp, now glows with a softer, more smouldering fire. The dark brown leather looks deeper, almost black in the receding light. You feel a sense of profound security. No matter how the world outside changes, this room remains a sanctuary. The grounding atmosphere of the 1590s is not a relic of the past. It is an eternal state of mind for those who value the quiet work of the intellect. You are wrapped in the history, the scent, and the silence of the books, and for now, that is all that matters. The orange glow of the late afternoon sun begins to stretch across the library floor, casting the shadows of the arched windows into elongated silhouettes that resemble the ribs of a cathedral. This is the hour of transition, where the vibrant energy of the morning gives way to a contemplative, heavy stillness. The air in the room has become noticeably warmer, causing the wood of the massive oak shelves to expand ever so slightly, producing the occasional soft thrum or pop that echoes through the silence. This physical sound is a reminder of the library's vitality. It is a structure that lives and breathes alongside its contents. The intellectual peace of this hour is thick and palpable, inviting a deeper, more leisurely reflection on the secrets held within the dark brown leather bindings. You find yourself drawn to the section of the library housing the ancient herbals and botanical texts. Here the scent of the room changes once more. The bass notes of beeswax and old paper are joined by a faint, ghostly aroma of dried plants and ancient resins. Some of these books are bound in rugged pigskin, their surfaces toughened by time and stained by the oils of 1,000 hands. The tactile experience of running your fingers over these textures provides a grounding atmosphere that is incredibly soothing. It is as if the wisdom of the natural world, captured in ink and preserved in hide, is being transferred directly to your spirit. The physical comfort of the scene is bolstered by the knowledge that these books have survived fires, wars, and the slow decay of centuries to be here with you now. The rolling oak ladders now stand in a row, their shadows creating a rhythmic pattern on the spines of the law books. Looking up, you see the gold leaf on the highest shelves flickering like dying embers. These upper reaches, seldom visited by the casual reader, hold the most esoteric and guarded knowledge of the 1590s. The intellectual peace found in looking upward is profound. It is the realization that there is always more to learn, always another height to climb. The library is not just a destination, but a journey that never truly ends. The grounding atmosphere of the stone floor beneath your feet keeps you anchored, even as your mind begins to drift into the complexities of the philosophies housed above. The heavy velvet curtains are now a deep, smouldering burgundy in the low light. They hold the heat of the sun, acting like a warm hearth for the corner of the room. You can hear the distant, muffled sound of a bell tolling from the old town square, signaling the end of the workday for the citizens of Prague. But here the workday never truly ends. It merely changes form. The master binder may be gone, but the resonance of his craft remains in every perfectly aligned hinge and every crisp gilded letter. The sense of safety you feel is absolute. Wrapped in the scent of aged parchment and the protective silence of the vaults, you are shielded from the uncertainties of the future. As the sun begins to dip below the horizon, the library enters a state of twilight grace. The contrast between the dark brown leather and the shimmering gold leaf becomes more dramatic, a final visual symphony before the darkness returns. The scent of the room deepens, becoming muskier and more earthy, a mixture of shadows and history. This is the ultimate physical comfort, the feeling of being completely submerged in a world of order, craft, and quietude. The library in 1590 Prague is a testament to the endurance of the human soul. You breathe in the cooling air, letting the grounding atmosphere fill your heart, and you realize that even as the light fades, the wisdom within these walls will always burn bright. The twilight has now fully descended upon the library, turning the golden hues of the afternoon into a palette of deep blues and shadowy indigos. The massive oak shelves, which seemed so sturdy and defined in the sunlight, now appear like dark ancient cliffs looming over the aisles. The intellectual peace of the room has shifted into a more mysterious, introspective phase. In the dim light, the titles on the spines are no longer legible, leaving only the tactile memory of the dark brown leather and the faint glimmer of the gold leaf to guide the senses. This environment creates a profound grounding atmosphere. When the eyes can see less, the other senses sharpen. You can feel the coolness of the air returning, a crisp, clean sensation that makes the lingering warmth of the wooden reading desks feel like a precious remnant of the day. The scent of the library at this hour is perhaps its most enchanting iteration. With the sun's warmth fading, the heavier, earthier smells come to the fore. You can smell the deep, rich musk of the animal hides used in the bindings, a scent that is primal yet refined. This is layered with the dry, dusty aroma of the linen rag paper, a smell that evokes the fields of flax and the clatter of the paper mills. Together, they create a sense of physical comfort that is deeply rooted in the natural world. In 1590, there is no separation between the materials of the earth and the treasures of the mind. Everything is connected, from the oak tree that provided the shelves to the beeswax that protects the wood. This interconnectedness is the source of the library's enduring power to soothe the spirit. You move slowly through the darkness, your hand occasionally brushing against a rolling ladder. The wood feels different now, colder, smoother, almost like stone. The silence is so thick, it seems to have a weight of its own, pressing gently against your skin. This is the ultimate intellectual peace, the silence of 1,000 authors waiting for the morning to speak again. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the heavy velvet curtains, which have now been fully drawn to keep out the night chill. They stand as thick, silent sentinels, muffling the sounds of the horses' hooves on the cobblestones outside and the distant shouting of the city guards. Inside this fortress of books, you are safe, tucked away in a pocket of time that belongs only to the seekers of wisdom. As you stand near the binder's workbench, the iron press appears as a dark silhouette, a monument to the labor that never truly sleeps. Even in the dark, the room feels busy with the energy of the work that was completed today. The new book, now resting on its shelf, has become part of the library's collective consciousness. The physical comfort of knowing that everything is in its place, the tools cleaned, the books shelved, the doors locked, is a powerful balm for any anxiety. You feel a deep connection to the master binder, a man who understands that true peace is found in the meticulous care of one's craft. The Library of Prague in 1590 is a place where the darkness is not frightening but protective. It is a space where the scent of old paper and the texture of leather act as a bridge to the past, allowing you to walk among the giants of history. As you prepare to let the night fully take hold, the grounding atmosphere remains with you, a steady pulse in the quiet. The gold leaf on the spines may be hidden for now, but the light it represents is still there waiting for the first ray of tomorrow's sun. You breathe in one last time, savoring the cool, spicy air of the sanctuary, and find yourself ready for the deep, dreamless sleep that only a place of such profound intellectual peace can provide. The absolute midnight has returned to the Library of Prague, completing the great circle of the day. The room is a void of velvet shadows, yet it does not feel empty. It feels full, charged with the silent vibration of millions of printed words resting in the dark. The intellectual peace of this hour is the most profound of all. It is the peace of total stasis, where the pursuit of knowledge rests, so that the mind can integrate what it has learned. You stand in the center of the nave, and the grounding atmosphere is so intense it feels like a physical pull toward the earth. The massive oak shelves are no longer just furniture, they are the bedrock of the room, anchored deep into the Bohemian soil. The scent is now a cool, concentrated essence of history. The dry, mineral smell of the stone walls, the deep musk of the dark brown leather, and the faint, sweet memory of the day's beeswax. In this darkness, the physical comfort of the library comes from its predictability. You know exactly where the rolling ladders are parked, their brass wheels silent on the floorboards. You know the exact texture of the leather on the corner shelf, rough-grained pigskin that has survived a century. This familiarity is a sanctuary for the modern soul, a reminder that some things are constant and unyielding. The grounding atmosphere of 1590 is a heavy cloak that shields you from the frantic, ephemeral nature of the outside world. Here, time is not a river rushing toward a waterfall, but a deep, still lake. Every breath you take in this darkness is slow and deliberate, synchronizing your heartbeat with the ancient rhythm of the building. If you have traveled this far into the night with us, your presence has become a part of this library's long history. Please subscribe to keep the lamp of knowledge burning, and hit the like button to help others find this path of peace. Leave a comment below in the absolute silence of a midnight library. What is the one question you would ask the ghosts of the past? Your support is the binding that holds our community together, ensuring these stories of craft and quietude never fade. The heavy velvet curtains are now mere textures in the blackness, thick barriers that keep the midnight mist of the Vltava at bay. You find yourself leaning against the binder's workbench, the wood cold and solid beneath your palms. Even without light, you can feel the integrity of the space. The intellectual peace of the room is reinforced by the silence of the tools. The shears, the press, and the bone folder are all resting, their work done for now. The grounding atmosphere is a promise of renewal. Just as the binder will return with the sun, the quest for truth will begin again. But for now, there is only the scent of old paper and the profound healing stillness of the night. As you prepare to close your eyes, the library seems to fold itself around you. The scent of the dark brown leather is the last thing you notice, a rich, earthy fragrance that smells of endurance and care. The physical comfort of the sanctuary is absolute. You are safe within the maze of oak and gold, protected by the skill of the craftsman and the wisdom of the ages. The Library of Prague in the year 1590 has given you its greatest gift, the peace of a mind at rest. The darkness is total, the silence is complete, and the world is, for this moment, perfectly bound. The clock of history continues its silent tick, and though the midnight hour has passed, the library remains a theatre of deep, resonant stillness. In this deepest part of the night, the distinction between the physical and the spiritual seems to blur. The dark brown leather of the volumes surrounding you feels less like animal hide and more like the very skin of the past. Warm with the friction of centuries of human thought, the intellectual peace of this moment is not merely the absence of noise but a presence of profound weight, the weight of answers found and questions yet to be asked. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the absolute stillness of the air, which carries the scent of aged cedar and the faint, cold metallic tang of the stars visible through the high, uncurtained clerestory windows. You find yourself sitting on the floorboards, your back against the base of a massive oak shelf. The wood is unyielding and solid, a physical comfort that reminds you of the permanence of things built with intent. In the 1590s, to build a library was to make a wager against oblivion, and as you sit here, you can feel that the wager has been won. The grounding atmosphere of the stone and wood acts as a stabilizer for the soul, drawing out the frantic energies of the modern day and replacing them with the slow, rhythmic pulse of the Renaissance. The scent of the library has become a subtle, complex tapestry, hints of dry moss, the sharp zest of long-evaporated ink, and the comforting, fatty richness of the beeswax that has preserved these treasures. High above, the rolling oak ladders are silhouettes of possibility. You imagine them as the skeletons of giants, standing guard over the collective memory of mankind. There is an intellectual peace in knowing that even in the dark the order remains. The books haven't moved, the categories haven't shifted. The logic of the library is a constant, a fixed point in a turning world. This structure provides a sense of safety that is deeply restorative. You are not lost in a maze. You are sheltered within a masterpiece of organization. The physical comfort of the room is further enhanced by the heavy velvet curtains that still hang thick and motionless, creating a thermal cocoon that keeps the biting chill of the Prague night from reaching your bones. The binder's workbench, just a few feet away, is a shadow of industry. You can almost see the phantom movements of the master's hands as he worked the dark brown leather earlier. The intellectual peace of the room is tied to this craftsmanship, the idea that wisdom deserves a beautiful and durable home. The grounding atmosphere of the workspace is a reminder that even the loftiest ideas require a physical vessel. The scent of the leather, now cool and dormant, still carries the promise of the work to come. It is a scent of hope, suggesting that as long as there is leather, thread, and gold, the light of the human spirit will find a way to endure. As the very first hint of the pre-dawn grey begins to touch the highest edges of the ceiling, the library seems to sigh in its sleep. The transition from the absolute black of midnight to the softest charcoal of the coming morning is a slow, beautiful unveiling. You feel a renewed sense of connection to the world of 1590. The physical comfort of the oak, the grounding atmosphere of the stone, and the scent of old paper all combine to create a state of perfect equanimity. You are part of the library now, a silent witness to the enduring power of the bound word. The peace you have found here is not a temporary escape, but a permanent homecoming to the sanctuary of the mind. The pre-dawn greyness is a ghost that haunts the aisles, thin and ethereal, slowly defining the edges of the rolling oak ladders once more. This is the hour of the blue light, a time when the Library of Prague feels less like a building and more like a dream suspended in stone. The intellectual peace of this moment is delicate. It is the quiet before the first thought of the day. You can see the faint shimmer of the gold leaf on the spines, not yet brilliant but glimmering with a soft silver-like quality in the low light. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the silence of the city outside, which has reached its deepest point of slumber. The scent of the room is clean and sharp. The coldness of the night has condensed the aromas of dark brown leather and aged parchment into a crisp, invigorating perfume that wakes the senses even as it calms the heart. As the light subtly increases, the textures of the library return to prominence. You reach out to touch the side of a shelf, and the oak feels cold and smooth like a pebble polished by a river. This tactile feedback provides a physical comfort that anchors you to the year 1590. Here, the world is made of primary materials: stone, wood, skin, and metal. There is a profound grounding atmosphere in this simplicity. You are surrounded by things that were grown or mined, not manufactured by machines. The scent of beeswax is faint now, a lingering floral ghost that haunts the corners where the polishing was most frequent. It is a scent that speaks of care and maintenance, of a world where objects were intended to last for centuries. You find yourself wandering back toward the great reading desks. In the dim light, the open inkwells look like dark, watchful eyes. The intellectual peace of the library is embodied in these desks. They are the battlefields where ignorance is defeated by the steady march of the quill. The grounding atmosphere is palpable in the weight of the furniture, massive, heavy pieces of joinery that require several men to move. This physical stability translates into a mental security. In this room, you are protected from the shifting winds of fortune and the chaos of the streets. The physical comfort of the high-backed chairs with their cracked leather seats and sturdy frames offers a place of repose for both the body and the soul. The binder's area is still swathed in shadow, but the iron press is beginning to catch the first hints of the coming day. You can see the outline of the tools, laid out in their perfect, disciplined rows. The intellectual peace found here is the peace of the artisan, the knowledge that through focus and repetition, one can create something of eternal value. The dark brown leather scraps on the floor are now visible as dark shapes, reminders of the transformation that took place yesterday. The scent of the workspace is a mix of cold iron and the earthy, bitter smell of the tanning agents in the leather. It is a grounding, honest scent that reminds you of the labor required to preserve wisdom. As the first bird begins to sing in the courtyard below, the library seems to shiver with the anticipation of the morning. The heavy velvet curtains which have guarded the night so faithfully will soon be pulled back to welcome the sun. You feel a sense of completion, as if you have travelled through a portal of time and emerged with a clearer understanding of what it means to be a keeper of knowledge. The physical comfort of the sanctuary, the grounding atmosphere of the ancient oak, and the scent of old paper all remain as constants in your heart. The Library of 1590 Prague is no longer just a place you visited. It is a part of your own story, a bound volume of peace that you will carry with you into the waking world. The bird's song in the courtyard is joined by the distant, rhythmic tolling of a church bell, cutting through the silver-blue haze of the Prague dawn. Within the library, the light is no longer a ghost, it is a creeping tide of clarity. The rolling oak ladders, standing tall against the walls of knowledge, begin to glow with a soft, matte sheen as the first indirect rays of the sun find the leaded glass. This is the hour of the scholar's awakening. The intellectual peace of the room is now tinged with a quiet excitement, the feeling of a world being reborn in the ink and the grain. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the heavy, cool air that sits low in the aisles, smelling of the damp stone foundation and the dry, noble essence of the dark brown leather. It is a physical comfort that is both ancient and refreshing, like drinking cold water from a mountain spring. You move toward the center of the room where the binder's workbench sits like an altar waiting for its priest. In this light, the small grains of the oakwood table are visible, each line a record of a year in the life of a tree that lived long before the books it now supports were ever written. The scent of the library is at its most balanced. The musk of the animal hides, the floral hint of the beeswax, and the sharp, clean smell of the morning air. This grounding atmosphere provides a sense of absolute stability. In 1590, the library is the center of the universe, a fixed point around which the celestial spheres and the empires of men revolve. The physical comfort of the thick walls and the massive shelves creates a sanctuary where the chaos of time cannot penetrate. As you look up at the towering shelves, the gold leaf on the spines begins to catch the strengthening light, sparking into life like stars appearing in the evening sky. These flashes of brilliance are a reminder of the intellectual peace found in the pursuit of truth. Every book is a light in the darkness, and the library is a galaxy of thought. You feel a sense of profound safety here, wrapped in the scent of old paper and the protective embrace of the oak. The grounding nature of the surroundings allows your mind to expand, reaching for the ideas of the ancients without losing its connection to the earth. The physical comfort of the silence, broken only by your own breath, is a gift that the modern world has all but forgotten. The heavy velvet curtains, still drawn tight, appear as deep, dark pillars of red, holding back the distractions of the waking city. You know that soon the binder will return, and the cycle of creation will begin anew. But for now, in this transition between night and day, the library belongs to you. The scent of the dark brown leather is a comforting presence, a reminder of the skill and care that goes into preserving the human story. The grounding atmosphere of the 1590s is a heavy, warm presence, like a hand on your shoulder, guiding you toward a state of perfect equanimity. As the sun finally breaks over the horizon, a single beam of golden light pierces through a gap in the curtains, striking the floorboards and illuminating a path toward the shelves. The library is fully awake now, its treasures revealed in the brilliance of a new day. You feel a sense of deep, abiding peace, a physical comfort that comes from being exactly where you are meant to be. The scent of beeswax and history fills your lungs, and as you step into the light, you carry the grounding atmosphere of the sanctuary with you. The Library of Prague is a masterpiece of the soul, a place where the leather, the gold, and the word are all bound together in eternal harmony. The first true beam of golden light has now sliced through the library's heart, an incandescent line that reveals the swirling dance of dust motes in the air. Each mote looks like a tiny spark of inspiration drifting between the rows of dark brown leather. The room is no longer a place of shadows, it is a hall of amber and gold. The intellectual peace here has shifted from the quiet contemplation of the night into a bright, active clarity. You can see the minute details of the gold leaf on the nearest spines, the tiny impressions of floral stamps, and the sharp, geometric lines of the titles. This grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the tangible weight of history that surrounds you. There is no haste in 1590 Prague. There is only the steady, deliberate progression of the sun and the slow aging of the vellum. You walk toward the window where the light enters, and the physical comfort of the warmth on your skin is a sharp contrast to the cool stone you've occupied all night. The scent of the library begins to change as the heat intensifies. The beeswax on the rolling oak ladders begins to release a more potent, honeyed aroma, mixing with the dry, peppery scent of the aging ink. It is a fragrance that speaks of ancient laboratories and scholars' studies, a grounding, intellectual scent that centers your thoughts. The library feels like a living organism, waking up and stretching its limbs of oak and iron. Every creak of the floorboard under your feet is a note in a slow, centuries-old symphony of structure and thought. Looking back across the nave, the rolling oak ladders stand like the ribs of a great ship, ready to navigate the vast oceans of human knowledge. The intellectual peace of this place is found in its sheer scale. No matter how much you learn, there will always be more shelves to climb, more volumes of dark brown leather to open. This realization is not overwhelming. Rather, it provides a sense of endless potential, a grounding atmosphere of curiosity that keeps the mind sharp and the spirit young. The physical comfort of the space, the way the high ceilings allow the mind to breathe while the thick walls hold the body secure, creates a perfect environment for the ultimate pursuit of truth. The binder's workbench is now fully illuminated, looking like a master's stage before a performance. You notice a small pot of pigment that was left covered, a deep lapis lazuli blue that will be used for the next set of end papers. The grounding atmosphere of the craft is present in every tool. The heavy iron weights, the sharp steel needles, and the smooth bone folders. These are the instruments that turn abstract ideas into permanent objects. The scent of the workspace is now a bracing mix of cold metal and the organic, earthy smell of the leather scraps. It is a scent of work and purpose, a physical comfort that comes from knowing that through your labor, something beautiful and lasting is created. As the morning bell rings once more in the distance, the library is a radiant cathedral of wisdom. The heavy velvet curtains are finally pulled back in your mind's eye, revealing the full glory of the 1590s cityscape, the spires of St. Vitus, the bustling markets, and the smoke of a city coming to life. Yet here the peace remains undisturbed. The grounding atmosphere of the oak and the scent of old paper are your anchors. You are wrapped in a cocoon of intellectual peace, a state of mind where the past and the present meet in a silent golden embrace. The Library of Prague is your home for as long as you seek the light within its pages, and the physical comfort of its silence is your eternal reward. The morning has matured, and the library is now a chamber of pure liquid gold. The light has reached the deepest alcoves, illuminating titles that haven't seen the sun in months. Each shelf is a layer of human thought, stacked with the heavy, satisfying density of dark brown leather. The intellectual peace of the room has evolved into a state of high resonance. You can almost feel the vibration of the thousands of voices contained within the covers, all speaking at once in a silent, harmonious choir. This grounding atmosphere is anchored by the physical weight of the room, the way the massive oak pillars seem to groan softly under the pressure of the vaulted ceiling. The scent of the library is now at its most intoxicating, a rich, heavy blend of sun-baked wood, the sweet musk of the parchment, and a sharp, resinous top note from the cedar chests. You find yourself standing before a rolling oak ladder that has been left in the middle of an aisle. You run your hand along its side, feeling the grain of the wood. It is a physical comfort that connects you to the forest and the carpenter's hand. This grounding atmosphere is the hallmark of 1590. There is no distance between the man, the material, and the idea. Every book you see was touched by a papermaker, a printer, and a binder like the one you watched yesterday. The intellectual peace found here is born of this human connection. It is the comfort of knowing that knowledge is a shared burden and a shared treasure, passed from hand to hand through the medium of leather and ink. As you look toward the windows, the heavy velvet curtains have been tucked back into deep folds, their crimson shadows providing a stark contrast to the brilliant white light hitting the stone floor. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the sheer thickness of the masonry. You're standing inside a fortress of the mind. The scent of the morning air, drifting in from a small ventilation slit, brings a faint hint of wood smoke and damp earth from the Vltava riverbanks, grounding the intellectual peace of the library in the reality of the city. Yet the library remains a world apart. The physical comfort of the stillness here is a rare luxury, a silence so deep that you can hear the faint tink of the metal rings on the curtain rods as they settle in the breeze. The binder's workbench, now a silent witness to the growing day, holds the remnants of yesterday's labor. A stray piece of gold leaf, no larger than a fingernail, has caught a draft and settled on the dark brown leather of a nearby volume. It glows like a fallen star. This small detail captures the essence of the library, the intersection of the humble and the divine. The intellectual peace of the room is found in these small moments of beauty. The grounding atmosphere of the 1590s tells you that everything, no matter how small, has its place in the great chain of being. The scent of the workspace, a lingering mix of animal hide and cold iron, is a comforting reminder of the physical effort required to keep the flame of wisdom alive. As the shadows begin to shorten, marking the approach of midday, you feel a profound sense of belonging. The Library of Prague is not just a collection of books, it is a sanctuary for the restless soul. The physical comfort of the oak, the grounding atmosphere of the ancient stone, and the scent of old paper all serve to quiet the noise of the world. You are enveloped in a state of intellectual peace that is as durable as the dark brown leather on the shelves. In this golden hour, under the watchful eyes of the rolling ladders and the silent volumes, you realize that the search for truth is the most grounding journey of all. The light of 1590 continues to shine, steady and unwavering, illuminating the path for all who seek the quietude of the bound word. The high sun of Prague now rests directly above the library's clerestory windows, casting vertical pillars of light that slice through the nave like the strings of a celestial harp. This is the hour of the library's full power, where the intellectual peace is no longer a quiet whisper, but a thundering silence that commands the soul. Every shelf of dark brown leather seems to expand in the warmth, the organic materials of the books, the hide, the wood, the linen, breathing together in a slow, rhythmic exhale. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the sheer permanence of the scene. In the year 1590, there is a sense that these walls will stand forever, that the wisdom etched into the parchment is as immutable as the laws of the stars. The scent of the room has become a dense, aromatic fog. The spicy, resinous heat of the oak, the earthy musk of the bindings, and the faint, sweet trace of lavender used in the storage chests to keep the moths at bay. You find yourself drawn to the great central table, a massive slab of dark timber that has held the weight of 1,000 open folios. Running your palm across its surface, you feel the indentations of quill strokes and the faint rings left by inkwells of centuries past. This is a grounding atmosphere of the highest order. You are touching the literal scars of human inquiry. The physical comfort of the room is found in this solidity. There is nothing flimsy or temporary here. Everything, from the iron press of the binder to the heavy velvet curtains, is built to endure the passage of ages. This durability creates an intellectual peace that allows the mind to settle, free from the anxiety of a changing world. You are anchored in a sanctuary of stone and gold. The rolling oak ladders, now bathed in the uncompromising midday light, show every scratch and every drop of wax that has fallen upon them. They are the tools of the ascent, the physical means by which the scholar reaches the highest thoughts. Looking up at the dizzying heights of the shelves, you feel a sense of profound scale. The grounding atmosphere of the floor beneath you and the lofty reach of the books above create a perfect balance. The scent of the library is now energized by the heat, a dry and dignified aroma of old wisdom, a mixture of sun-warmed dust, drying ink, and the noble leathery fragrance of the dark brown covers. It is a physical comfort that bypasses the logic and speaks directly to the subconscious, telling you that here you are safe, here you are home. At the binder's workbench, the master's presence is still felt in the precise arrangement of his tools. The iron press stands like a silent guardian of the craft, its heavy screw reflecting the sun in a single brilliant point of light. The intellectual peace of the workspace is the peace of the finished task. The new book, now part of the great maze, has settled into its place, its dark brown leather indistinguishable from the elders of the collection except for the fresh, blinding glint of its gold leaf. This grounding atmosphere of tradition, the passing of the torch from one generation of books to the next, provides a sense of continuity that is the ultimate balm for the spirit. As the sun begins its slow descent toward the afternoon, the library remains a cathedral of light and thought. The heavy velvet curtains, though pulled back, still cast long, rich shadows of burgundy across the stone. You are enveloped in a state of perfect, undisturbed tranquility. The physical comfort of the oak, the grounding atmosphere of the 1590s, and the eternal scent of old paper all combine to form a boundary that the modern world cannot cross. You are a witness to the enduring legacy of the bound word, a participant in the silent dialogue between the past and the future. In the heart of Prague, within this maze of leather and gold, the intellectual peace is absolute, and the soul is finally at rest. The afternoon sun begins its slow, heavy tilt, shifting the pillars of light from the center of the nave toward the western walls. In this changing light, the texture of the library becomes almost sculptural. The dark brown leather on the shelves, which appeared uniform at noon, now reveals 1,000 individual variations. The fine grain of goatskin, the rugged durability of calfskin, and the ancient weathered surface of vellum. The intellectual peace of the room deepens as the shadows return to play amongst the spines. There is a profound grounding atmosphere in the way the library absorbs the light, softening the glare into a warm sepia glow. The scent of the room has evolved into a richer, woodier bouquet. The heat of the day has fully drawn out the aroma of the old oak, mixing it with the dry, almost floral scent of the paper and the sharp, metallic tang of the binder's shears resting on the bench. You sit for a moment on a low step of one of the rolling oak ladders, feeling the solid, cool wood beneath you. From this lower vantage point, the library feels like a grand, silent forest, where the trees are made of knowledge and the leaves are pages of history. The physical comfort of the silence is so thick, it feels like a heavy blanket draped over your shoulders. This grounding atmosphere of the 1590s is a sanctuary from the noise of progress. Here, the only sounds are the occasional creak of the building and the soft, rhythmic breathing of the library itself. The intellectual peace found in this stillness is a rare treasure, allowing your thoughts to wander through the centuries without distraction. The heavy velvet curtains at the far end of the hall sway almost imperceptibly, their deep red fabric catching the shifting light and turning the color of vintage wine. They serve as a soft, formidable barrier between the timeless world of the library and the ever-changing streets of Prague. The scent of the library, dominated by the dark brown leather, is a physical comfort that reminds you of the animal and vegetable roots of all human achievement. It is a grounding experience to realize that these lofty ideas are held together by hide, bone glue, and linen thread. This connection to the physical world is what gives the library its enduring strength and its ability to soothe the modern mind. Near the binder's desk, a single shaft of light hits a bowl of clear water used for dampening the leather. The reflection dances across the ceiling, a playful spirit in a room of serious intent. This small movement adds to the intellectual peace, a reminder that even in a place of great gravity, there is light and fluidity. The grounding atmosphere of the workspace remains. The iron press, the brass stamps, and the dark brown leather are all waiting for the master's return. The physical comfort of the room is enhanced by the knowledge that this cycle of preservation has continued for generations and will continue long after the sun sets today. As the afternoon shadows grow longer, reaching out like the fingers of a giant, the library prepares for the coming evening. The gold leaf on the spines begins to flicker again, catching the last direct rays of the sun. You feel a deep, abiding sense of safety. Wrapped in the scent of old paper and the protective silence of the oak, you are part of a world that values the slow, the steady, and the true. The grounding atmosphere of the 1590s is not just a setting, it is a state of being. Within this maze of leather and gold, the intellectual peace is your constant companion, and the physical comfort of the sanctuary is your eternal home. The late afternoon sun has begun to retreat from the floor, climbing the walls of the library until only the highest shelves are bathed in a burning copper radiance. Down in the aisles, a soft velvet gloom is reclaiming the spaces between the oak pillars. This shifting of light signals a new phase of intellectual peace, one where the focus moves from the external world of sight to the internal world of contemplation. The grounding atmosphere is palpable. As the room cools, the scent of the dark brown leather becomes more prominent again, smelling of earth, tannins, and the quiet passage of time. It is a physical comfort that feels like a heavy, protective cloak, shielding you from the frantic pace of the world outside the stone walls of Prague. You walk toward the section of the library containing the early cartography and travelogues. Here, the volumes are large and bound in thick, scarred leather that feels like the hide of an ancient beast. Opening one slightly, the scent of sea salt and dried spice seems to waft from the pages, a ghostly sensory memory of the journeys documented within. The grounding atmosphere of this corner is unique. It reminds you that while the body is anchored in the 1590s, the mind is free to roam the edges of the known map. This contrast creates a profound intellectual peace, a balance between the stability of the library and the vastness of human curiosity. The physical comfort of the sturdy reading desks nearby invites you to lean in and lose yourself in the copperplate engravings of distant lands. The rolling oak ladders now stand as tall, dark silhouettes against the glowing spines of the upper tiers. They are the silent sentinels of the library's transition into evening. You hear the faint, muffled sounds of the city preparing for the night, the distant cry of a street vendor and the rumble of a cart. But these sounds only serve to highlight the absolute stillness of your sanctuary. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the silence, a quiet so deep it has a texture like the fine grain of the paper, the scent of the library. Now a mixture of cooling wood and the fading sweetness of beeswax acts as a natural sedative, pulling you deeper into a state of relaxation. Near the binder's workbench, the shadows are long and distorted. The iron press looks like a slumbering giant, its work for the day complete. On the table, a few scraps of dark brown leather catch the dying light, their rich color a testament to the artisan's skill. This is the intellectual piece of the craft, the knowledge that through patience and precision, the fragile thoughts of men are given a form that can withstand the centuries. The grounding atmosphere of the workspace is a reminder that beauty and utility are one and the same. The physical comfort of the room is tied to this harmony, a sense of rightness that permeates every corner of the maze. As the sun finally dips below the line of the roofs outside, the library enters a state of twilight grace. The gold leaf on the spines gives one last brilliant flash before fading into the indigo shadows. You feel a sense of profound security, wrapped in the scent of old paper and the protective embrace of the stone walls. The grounding atmosphere of 1590 remains your constant anchor, a heavy, warm presence in the gathering dark. Within this sanctuary of leather and gold, the intellectual peace is absolute, and you are content to remain a silent witness to the enduring power of the word. The twilight deepens, turning the amber glow of the library into a meditative shade of violet and slate. The transition is seamless, a slow immersion into the quietude of the upcoming night. As the light recedes, the physical boundaries of the room seem to expand, and the intellectual peace becomes a vast open ocean. You are no longer looking at individual books, but feeling the collective weight of human history pressing gently against the silence. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the cooling temperature of the stone, which draws the last remnants of the day's heat from the air. The scent of the library has shifted once more. It is now dominated by the dry mineral smell of the walls and the deep resonant musk of the dark brown leather, which seems to breathe more heavily in the cooling shadows. You find yourself wandering back toward the central nave, where the rolling oak ladders are parked in their nocturnal formation. In the dim light, the wood of the ladders looks almost like dark iron, cold and impenetrable. Yet as you touch the grain, it still feels alive, a grounding comfort that anchors you to the physical world of 1590. This is the ultimate physical comfort, the tactile reality of the library's materials. There is nothing synthetic here, nothing that feels ephemeral or hollow. Every object from the smallest brass tack to the largest oak beam possesses a soul of its own. This grounding atmosphere is what allows the spirit to rest so completely safe in the knowledge that this environment is built upon the foundational truths of nature and craft. The heavy velvet curtains have become dark monoliths of texture, their deep red pile absorbing what little light remains. They act as a soundproof barrier, ensuring that the intellectual peace of the library is never disturbed by the rising evening wind outside. You can almost hear the heartbeat of the building, a slow rhythmic pulse of expanding wood and settling dust. The scent of the room is now a complex weave of history, the faint metallic tang of the binder's tools, the earthy richness of the leather, and the ghost of the morning's beeswax. This scent is a physical comfort that bypasses the intellect and speaks directly to the primitive heart, providing a sense of safety and belonging that is absolute. At the binder's workbench, the shadows are now thick enough to hide the sharp edges of the shears and needles. The iron press remains a stoic figure, a monument to the discipline required to preserve the word. The intellectual peace of the workspace is the peace of the silent apprentice, learning through observation and stillness. You realize that the library is not just a storage space for books, but a living testament to the human desire for order and beauty. The grounding atmosphere of the 1590s is a heavy, warm presence that wraps around you like a scholar's robe, shielding you from the cold uncertainties of the unknown. As the first star appears through the high clerestory window, the library is officially surrendered to the night. The gold leaf on the spines has become a faint, spectral shimmer, a memory of the light that was. You feel a sense of profound tranquility, a physical comfort that is as deep as the stone foundations of Prague itself. The grounding atmosphere of the leather and the oak remains your constant companion, a steadying force in the darkness. Within this maze of wisdom, the intellectual peace is your eternal reward, and as you stand in the silent twilight, you are part of the infinite story that the library tells to the stars. The blue hour of the Prague evening has finally surrendered to a velvet, ink-black night. The library has returned to its state of ultimate mystery, where the architecture of the room is defined not by light, but by the weight of its silence. This is the hour when the intellectual peace of the sanctuary is most profound, a silence so heavy it feels like the physical presence of the thousands of minds resting on the shelves. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the absolute stillness of the air, which has become cool and crisp, carrying the concentrated essence of the library's soul. The scent is now a deep, layered perfume, the sharp, cold mineral of the limestone walls, the dry and ancient smell of the vellum, and the pervasive, comforting musk of the dark brown leather. It is a scent that anchors you to the earth, a sensory tether to the year 1590. You walk through the darkness, your feet finding the familiar path between the oak shelves by instinct rather than sight. The physical comfort of the room is found in this familiarity. The library is a landscape of known textures. You run your hand along the edge of a shelf, feeling the subtle indentations where the binder's tools once pressed against the wood. The grounding atmosphere of the craft is everywhere, even in the dark. You can feel the energy of the work that was done throughout the day, the cutting, the sewing, the gilding, now resting in the stillness. The intellectual peace of the night is the reward for the labor of the day, a time for the knowledge within the books to settle and breathe in the shadows. The rolling oak ladders stand like frozen sentinels in the aisles, their brass wheels silent and cold in the absolute dark. They seem to reach upward into infinity, connecting the solid ground of the library to the celestial heights of the ceiling. This verticality creates a grounding atmosphere of aspiration. You are reminded that while your feet are on the floorboards of the 1590s, your mind is invited to climb as high as it dares. The scent of the ladders, the faint, lingering aroma of beeswax and old wood, provides a physical comfort that is deeply reassuring. It is the smell of a world that is cared for, a world where objects are preserved with love and precision. Near the heavy velvet curtains, the silence is even deeper. The fabric is so thick it seems to absorb the very passage of time, creating a pocket of eternity within the walls of Prague. The grounding atmosphere here is one of total protection. Behind these curtains the world may change, but inside, the dark brown leather and the gold leaf remain constant. The intellectual peace of the room is a fortress, a sanctuary where the spirit can expand without fear of interruption. The scent of the curtains, a faint, dusty richness, adds a layer of warmth to the cool night air, a final touch of physical comfort in the darkness. As you stand in the center of the nave, looking up at the faint glimmer of the stars through the high windows, you feel a sense of perfect completion. The library of 1590 is a masterpiece of the human spirit, a place where the physical and the intellectual are bound together in a single beautiful volume. The grounding atmosphere of the stone, the wood, and the leather remains your constant anchor. Within this maze of quietude, the intellectual peace is absolute, and as the night reaches its zenith, you are wrapped in the scent of history, safe in the heart of the sanctuary. The heart of the night in 1590 Prague is a deep, resonant hollow, yet the library feels as solid as a mountain. There is no moon tonight, and the high clerestory windows are merely rectangles of a slightly lighter shade of black, dusted with the cold, distant glitter of the Bohemian stars. In this total absence of colour, the intellectual peace of the room reaches its peak. You are no longer distracted by the glint of gold or the grain of the wood. You are alone with the pure presence of the books. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the weight of the silence, which seems to have a physical density, like water at the bottom of a still lake. The scent of the library has become concentrated and heavy. The primeval musk of the dark brown leather, the dry alkaline scent of the stone dust, and the faint cold metallic tang of the iron press in the corner. You reach out into the darkness and touch the spine of a book near the binder's bench. The leather is cool, almost like skin that has been chilled by a winter breeze, yet underneath that coolness is the memory of the life it once held. This tactile connection provides a physical comfort that is grounding in its honesty. Everything in this room has a history that can be traced back to the earth: the flax for the paper, the oak for the shelves, the cattle for the leather. The grounding atmosphere of the 1590s is a reminder of this cycle of life and preservation. The intellectual peace you feel is the peace of the steward, the one who recognizes that knowledge is a living thing that must be housed in materials of the earth to survive the passage of time. The rolling oak ladders, invisible in the gloom, are felt as a subtle shift in the air as you move past them. Their massive frames act as baffles for the silence, breaking up the vast space into smaller, more intimate chambers of thought. The grounding atmosphere of these wooden structures is immense. They are the literal pillars of the scholar's world. The scent of the wood, now cold and dormant, is a clean, sharp smell that cuts through the heavier musk of the bindings. This physical comfort of the living wood provides a sense of growth even in the dead of night. You are standing in a forest of ideas, where the trees never lose their leaves and the fruit is always ripe for those who know how to reach for it. By the heavy velvet curtains, the air is slightly warmer, trapped by the thick pile of the fabric. Leaning your head against the velvet, you feel the vibration of the city outside, the faint, distant hum of the world that never truly sleeps. But here, the intellectual peace is guarded by 3 feet of masonry and a century of tradition. The grounding atmosphere is one of absolute sovereignty. Within these walls, the laws of the library are the only laws that matter. The scent of the velvet mixed with the cold air of the stone creates a comforting, paradoxical fragrance of luxury and austerity. It is a scent that perfectly encapsulates the spirit of the Renaissance scholar, one who seeks the richness of the mind through the discipline of study. As you stand in the absolute center of the library, the dark brown leather of the thousands of books seems to pulse with a slow collective heartbeat. You are at the very core of the world's memory. The physical comfort of the sanctuary is total, a sense of safety that goes deeper than the skin and settles into the marrow of the bone. The grounding atmosphere of 1590 remains your constant anchor, a weight that keeps you from drifting away into the void of the night. Within this maze of wisdom, the intellectual peace is your eternal reward, and in the deep, scent-filled darkness of the Prague night, you are finally completely at home. As the deep midnight begins to lean toward the first whispered hints of a new day, the library of 1590 Prague enters its most mystical state. The air is perfectly still, yet it carries the weight of 1,000 years of human inquiry. The intellectual peace found in this absolute darkness is not a void but a fullness, a saturation of thought and care preserved in every fibre of the room. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the cooling temperature, which causes the massive oak shelves to settle into the stone floor with almost imperceptible groans. The scent of the library has become a thick, intoxicating essence. The deep, earthy musk of the dark brown leather, the dry, structural scent of old wood, and the cold, mineral breath of the limestone. It is a physical comfort that tells you that you are anchored in something far greater than yourself. You find yourself sitting at one of the heavy reading desks, your fingers tracing the smooth, cool surface of the wood. In the darkness, the tactile becomes the primary world. The grounding atmosphere of the oak is a steadying force, a reminder of the slow, patient growth of the tree that now serves as a foundation for knowledge. The physical comfort of the high-backed chair with its worn leather seat supports you like the hand of an old friend. This is the ultimate intellectual peace, the realization that you are part of a continuum of seekers who have sat in this same silence, breathing this same air of parchment and ink. The scent of the desk, a mixture of centuries of beeswax and the faint acidic sting of spilled ink, is a fragrance of dedication and discovery. In the shadows, the rolling oak ladders remain perfectly still, their forms lost to the night, but their presence felt in the way they divide the space into sacred alcoves. The grounding atmosphere of these tall structures is immense. They represent the ladder of the mind, the ability to rise above the mundane and touch the eternal. The scent of the wood, now chilled by the night air, is clean and bracing, a contrast to the heavy, resinous smell of the leather-bound volumes. This physical comfort of the materials provides a sense of integrity that is rare in any age. In the library of 1590, there is no artifice, only the honest work of the hand and the mind. The heavy velvet curtains at the windows feel like the walls of a tent in the wilderness, protecting the warmth of human thought from the cold indifference of the night sky. The grounding atmosphere of the fabric is a luxury of texture, a soft barrier that muffles the world. Behind these curtains, the city of Prague is a distant memory of cobblestones and shadows, but here, the intellectual peace is a living, breathing reality. The scent of the curtains holding on to the faint aromas of wood smoke from the city's hearths adds a touch of human warmth to the scholarly chill of the room. It is a physical comfort that balances the austerity of the stone and the leather. As you close your eyes and breathe in the deep, complex scent of the dark brown leather, you feel a profound sense of safety. The library is a fortress, a sanctuary, and a home. The grounding atmosphere of the 1590s is not just a time but a feeling of absolute belonging. Within this maze of wisdom, the intellectual peace is your eternal reward, and the physical comfort of the sanctuary is your constant anchor. In the heart of the night, surrounded by the silent voices of the past, you realize that the most beautiful bound volume is the one you are living in this very moment. The very first tremors of pre-dawn begin to vibrate through the library, a subtle shift in the density of the blackness. This is the hour of the alchemist and the monk, the time when the soul is most receptive to the secrets of the universe. The intellectual peace of the room is so profound it feels as if the air itself is composed of wisdom. The grounding atmosphere is anchored by the deep, unmoving shadows of the massive oak shelves which stand like the roots of the world. The scent of the library has reached a state of frozen perfection. The cold primal musk of the dark brown leather, the dry and ghostly aroma of ancient parchment, and the sharp, clean scent of the stone walls. This combination provides a physical comfort that is both stoic and nurturing, a sensory cocoon that protects you from the uncertainties of the waking world. As you stand in the center of the aisle, you reach out to touch one of the rolling oak ladders. The wood is icy to the touch, a bracing shock that heightens your awareness of the present moment. This tactile grounding atmosphere is essential. It reminds you that the pursuit of the divine must always be balanced by the reality of the material. The physical comfort of the ladder's sturdy construction, its heavy brass fittings and solid oak rungs, gives you the confidence to navigate the darkness. You are standing in the year 1590, a time when things were built to last, and this durability translates into a deep mental security. The intellectual peace of the library is not fragile. It is as robust as the iron press on the binder's bench. The scent of the room begins to stir as the temperature rises by the smallest fraction. The dark brown leather releases a faint, earthy sweetness, a reminder of the rolling hills and the livestock that once roamed the Bohemian countryside. This grounding atmosphere connects the library to the natural world, proving that even the highest intellectual peace is rooted in the earth. The physical comfort of the room is further enhanced by the heavy velvet curtains, which appear as deep, textured shadows against the grey-blue light beginning to filter through the high windows. These curtains are the guardians of the silence, a thick velvet shield that keeps the distractions of the outside world at bay while you commune with the ghosts of the past. Near the binder's area, the iron press begins to take shape once again, a dark and powerful silhouette against the paling wall. The intellectual peace found in this workspace is the peace of the silent craftsman, the one who knows that his hands are the bridge between a thought and an object. The grounding atmosphere of the 1590s is palpable here, in the scent of the tanning oils and the cold metallic smell of the shears. The physical comfort of the workbench scarred by years of labor is a testament to the beauty of utility. Every mark on the wood is a story of a book saved, a thought preserved in dark brown leather and gold leaf. As the first bird begins its hesitant call in the distant courtyard, the library feels like a temple preparing for the arrival of its deity. The light, you are enveloped in a state of perfect equanimity, a grounding atmosphere that makes you feel both small and infinite. The intellectual peace of the sanctuary is your constant companion, and the physical comfort of the oak and stone is your refuge. Within this maze of wisdom, you have found a place where time stands still, and as the morning light begins its slow climb toward the windows, you realize that the scent of old paper and leather is the most beautiful fragrance you have ever known. The transition from the deep velvet black of night to the ethereal grey of early dawn is almost imperceptible, yet the library of 1590 Prague feels it in every fibre of its structure. The high windows begin to catch the first cold light of the eastern sky, casting long, ghostly fingers across the tops of the shelves. The intellectual peace of this hour is thin and sharp, like the edge of a new blade. It is a time of clarity and beginning. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the silence, which is no longer the heavy silence of sleep, but the expectant silence of a room waiting to be useful. The scent of the library is at its most pristine. The sharp, cold mineral of the stone, the faint, dry dust of the scrolls, and the enduring earthy weight of the dark brown leather. This fragrance provides a physical comfort that wakes the mind gently, anchoring it to the solid reality of the oak and the earth. You move through the nave, and the rolling oak ladders begin to emerge from the gloom like the masts of ships in a fog. Their brass wheels catch the faint light, glinting with a cold silver promise. The grounding atmosphere of these structures is immense. They are the physical manifestation of the reach for higher things touching the wood. You feel the chill of the night still trapped in the grain, a physical comfort that reminds you of the building's resilience. In 1590, the library is not just a room, it is a fortress of thought, and its materials, the stone, the oak, and the hide, are its armor. The intellectual peace found here is protected by these layers of craftsmanship, creating a space where the frantic pulse of the modern world has no meaning. The scent of the library begins to deepen as the light grows. The dark brown leather, warmed by the very first hint of the sun's indirect heat, begins to release a richer, more complex aroma, hints of tea, of tobacco, and of the salt used in the curing process. This grounding atmosphere is the scent of civilization itself, the smell of things kept and cared for. The physical comfort of the room is enhanced by the heavy velvet curtains, which still hold the darkness of the night within their folds. They are the final barrier against the coming noise of the city, a soft red shield that preserves the sanctuary's quietude for a few moments longer. At the binder's workbench, the tools are now visible as sharp, clear outlines. The iron press, the bone folder, and the needles are laid out in a discipline of order that brings its own intellectual peace. To look at these tools is to understand the grounding atmosphere of the 1590s, that wisdom is a physical labor, a process of binding and pressing. The physical comfort of the workspace is found in its honesty. There is no mystery to how these books are made, only the mystery of what they contain. The scent of the leather scraps, a mixture of raw animal strength and refined oil, is a comforting reminder that the most profound thoughts are often wrapped in the simplest materials. As the grey light turns to a soft pearlescent white, the library seems to expand, the vaulted ceilings pulling away from the floor. You are standing in the centre of a masterpiece of the human spirit. The grounding atmosphere of the ancient oak and the scent of old paper are your anchors in this sea of history. The intellectual peace is absolute, a state of perfect balance between the physical world of 1590 and the infinite world of the mind. Within this maze of leather and gold, the physical comfort of the sanctuary is your home, and as the day officially begins, you realize that you are not just a visitor to this library, you are a part of its eternal, unfolding story. The white light of early morning has now conquered the library, washing away the last of the blue shadows and revealing the room in its full, majestic geometry. Every shelf, every rolling oak ladder, and every volume of dark brown leather stands in sharp relief, as if the world has been newly engraved by a master's hand. The intellectual peace of this moment is crystalline. The confusion of the night has dissolved into a morning of absolute purpose. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the sight of the rows upon rows of books, a physical wall of human experience that stands unshakable against the passage of time. The scent of the library has shifted into a crisp morning clarity. The invigorating smell of cold stone, the dry sweetness of the sun-touched wood, and the deep, reliable aroma of the leather. This provides a physical comfort that is both stimulating and stabilizing, centering your soul in the year 1590. You walk past a shelf of ancient law books, their spines cracked with the wisdom of centuries. The grounding atmosphere here is almost tangible, a sense of order and structure that is deeply comforting. The intellectual peace found in these heavy tomes is the knowledge that human society is built on a foundation of shared understanding. The physical comfort of the room is enhanced by the sturdy proportions of the furniture, the massive reading desks that do not wobble, the heavy chairs that do not creak. In 1590 Prague, the world is solid. The scent of the dark brown leather in this section is slightly different, perhaps more aged, carrying a dusty, noble fragrance that reminds you of the gravity of the words contained within. Near the center of the hall, the rolling oak ladders are no longer silhouettes but vibrant golden brown structures. The grain of the oak is illuminated by the morning sun, showing the strength and resilience of the wood. The grounding atmosphere of these ladders is a testament to human ingenuity, the simple, effective way we reach for the things we desire to know. The physical comfort of the wood, now warming under the light, is a tactile pleasure that connects you to the physical labor of the library's creators. The intellectual peace of the room is amplified by this harmony between form and function. Everything here has a reason for being, and everything is in its proper place. The heavy velvet curtains have been drawn back slightly by an unseen hand, allowing a broad beam of sunlight to strike the binder's workbench. This area, once a place of shadow and mystery, is now a stage of bright productivity. The grounding atmosphere of the craft is vivid in the sunlight. The glint of the brass stamps, the rich texture of the dark brown leather waiting to be worked, and the sharp, clean lines of the iron press. The scent of the workspace is a bracing mix of metallic iron and the warm, earthy smell of the leather. It is an intellectual peace that comes from the hands, a physical comfort born of the knowledge that you can shape your world into something beautiful and lasting. As the sun climbs higher, the library becomes a vessel of light. The gold leaf on the spines begins to blaze, turning the aisles into corridors of fire. You feel a profound sense of empowerment. The grounding atmosphere of 1590 and the scent of old paper are your foundations, giving you the strength to stand tall in the face of the unknown. The intellectual peace is your shield, and the physical comfort of the sanctuary is your reward. Within this maze of wisdom, you are a traveler who has found the ultimate destination, a place where the past is always present, and where the light of knowledge never truly fades. The morning sun has now ascended fully, turning the library of 1590 Prague into a cathedral of brilliant clarity. The shadows have retreated into the smallest cracks between the floorboards, leaving the rolling oak ladders to stand in the spotlight of a new era of thought. This is the hour of maximum intellectual peace, where every volume of dark brown leather is a visible invitation to discovery. The grounding atmosphere is reinforced by the sheer permanence of the surroundings. As the world outside begins its daily bustle, the library remains a fixed point of absolute stability. The scent is a vibrant, waking blend of sun-warmed oak, the crisp, dry aroma of paper, and the deep, comforting perfume of the leather bindings. This provides a physical comfort that is both invigorating and deeply calming, a sense of being exactly where you belong in the timeline of human history. You move your hand along the shelves, feeling the warmth of the sun-soaked dark brown leather. The tactile feedback is a grounding experience that connects your physical body to the intellectual weight of the 1590s. Here, the intellectual peace is not passive, it is an active engagement with the spirit of the scholars who have come before you. The physical comfort of the room, the steady temperature, the solid presence of the stone walls, creates an environment where the mind can expand without limit. The scent of the library, now fully awakened by the heat, carries a hint of the beeswax polish from the ladders and the faint, resinous smell of the cedar chests, adding layers of complexity to the grounding atmosphere. The rolling oak ladders, now fully illuminated, show the beautiful patterns of their joinery, each peg and mortise a testament to the artisan's skill. This is a physical comfort that comes from witnessing excellence. The intellectual peace of the room is reflected in this order. When the world makes sense to the eye, it begins to make sense to the mind. The grounding atmosphere is strengthened by the scent of the wood, a clean, honest smell of the forest that has been tamed and turned into a tool for enlightenment. Standing at the foot of a ladder, looking up at the gold leaf glimmering on the highest shelves, you feel a sense of profound aspiration anchored in the reality of the oak. At the binder's bench, the day's work is ready to begin. The iron press stands like a silent partner, its heavy screw reflecting the morning light with a cold metallic brilliance. The grounding atmosphere of the workspace is visceral. The smell of the raw leather, the sharpness of the tools, and the weight of the iron. This is where intellectual peace is manufactured, one stitch at a time. The physical comfort of the bench, with its worn, smooth surface, is an invitation to focus and create. The scent of the dark brown leather scraps, mixed with the faint metallic tang of the tools, is a fragrance of purpose and tradition. As the city of Prague fully awakens outside the heavy velvet curtains, the library remains a world within a world. You are wrapped in a cocoon of history, a sanctuary where the grounding atmosphere of the 1590s and the scent of old paper are your constant companions. The intellectual peace of the sanctuary is absolute, a state of mind that transcends the noise of the streets. Within this maze of wisdom you have found a place of eternal return, where the physical comfort of the oak and the leather provides a foundation for the soaring flight of the human spirit. The light of the morning is not just a time of day. It is the illumination of the soul within the sacred walls of the library. The morning sun reaches its zenith, casting a final, blindingly beautiful glare across the entire hall. This is the moment of ultimate completion, where the golden light of 1590 Prague meets the eternal silence of the word. The intellectual peace of the library has reached a state of perfect saturation. There is no more room for doubt, only the vast resonant presence of truth preserved in dark brown leather. The grounding atmosphere is at its most potent, a heavy and holy weight that anchors your soul to the very foundations of the earth. The scent of the sanctuary is a masterpiece of sensory history. The rich, deep musk of the bindings, the sun-baked spice of the rolling oak ladders, and the clean mineral breath of the ancient stone. It is a physical comfort that transcends time, a final embrace from the sanctuary that has held you in its golden maze. You stand in the center of the nave, and the heavy velvet curtains seem to glow with an inner fire, their crimson folds shielding this world of thought from the fading shadows of the past. The grounding atmosphere of the 1590s is no longer just a setting, it is a part of you. The intellectual peace found here, the quiet dialogue between the ink and the parchment, is a treasure you will carry forever. The physical comfort of the room, from the smooth grain of the oak to the cool touch of the iron press, provides a final sense of security and belonging. As the light of the morning matures into an eternal afternoon, the scent of old paper and leather lingers like a benediction, a reminder that wisdom is a flame that never truly goes out. At the binder's workbench, the tools lie in a perfect, silent row, their work finished, their purpose fulfilled. The dark brown leather of the latest volume catches the sun one last time, the gold leaf on its spine shimmering like a beacon. The grounding atmosphere of the craft, the intellectual peace of the scholar, and the physical comfort of the sanctuary all merge into a single, transcendent moment of grace. You are at the heart of the Library of Prague, and the library is at the heart of you. With a final deep breath of the scent that has become your home, you realize that the story is complete. Within this maze of wisdom, the peace is absolute, the light is eternal, and the sanctuary is yours forever.
Sleepy History Tales is created for relaxation, entertainment, and sleep purposes.
The stories shared on this channel are inspired by historical events, daily life, and real periods in history, but they may be simplified, adapted, or narrated in a calming way to enhance the listening experience. This content is not intended to be a precise academic or educational source. While we aim to stay generally accurate, some details may be altered for storytelling flow and relaxation.
Please do not rely on this channel as a primary source for historical research or study.
By listening, you acknowledge that this content is designed to help you unwind, relax, and fall asleep.
Thank you for your understanding and support.